The author of a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal says childbirth is not safe for mothers in England.
Good morning. It is 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st of March. This is Breakfast on GBNews with Eamonn and Isabel.
Thank you very much for your company this morning. Leading the news, this is what we've got. Major changes to maternity services in England are expected in the wake of a damning report into failures at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust, which revealed catastrophic mismanagement.
Labour calls for the Prime Minister to resign over Partygate as Boris Johnson continues to insist the law was not broken over Downing Street parties. We'll find out what the future holds for him.
The Foreign Secretary will head to India today to urge Prime Minister Narendra Modi to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
It comes as the head of British intelligence service GCHQ reveals Putin's advisors are afraid to tell the Russian president the truth about the war and that Russian soldiers are sabotaging their own equipment.
If you've got a view on what we are expressing today, get in touch, gbviews at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet at gbnews. So here we are, Thursday morning. Top story today, the author of a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal has warned childbirth is still not safe until the recommendations of her report are adopted. Yeah,
failings over a 20-year period at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust led to the deaths of more than 200 children and many others severely brain damaged.
Now, this report also found that the trust wasn't held to account by external bodies.
The healthcare expert Donna Ockenden, who authored the report, said it was astounding that systemic failings had continued for so long.
In the House of Commons, the Health Secretary apologised to the families affected.
To all the families that have suffered so greatly, I am sorry. The report clearly shows that you were failed by a service that was there to help you and your loved ones to bring life into this world. We will make the changes that the report says are needed at both a local and national level.
Well, the Trust itself has also apologised, adding that it's already made changes and will make more in future.
Now, for more on this, recently retired midwife Nagme Temurian Yates joins us now. Nagme, you know, you're a professional. We, as members of the public, we listen to the stories that people had to tell. You scratch your head, you're aghast, and you think, how was this allowed to happen? Were these wards not supervised? Did nobody learn from anything? What was your initial human reaction to what you were hearing?
My initial human reaction was that my heart and my soul went to the families who were affected. And as far as I'm always concerned, we shouldn't even be losing one life.
Yeah.
This is 2022. We should not be losing lives.
But you heard the author of the report saying yesterday she couldn't guarantee that this was not happening elsewhere within England.
That is correct, because obviously it's only when these situations are brought to light, when families make campaigns and they continue, and like Ockenden report, or that they now are investigating into it and they bring recommendations, this could be happening anywhere else. Yes.
This is not to undermine in any way, you know, people like you, Nagme, and the skills, because, you know, I've had 4 children. And I always thought the big heroes were the midwives throughout all of this, the great unsung heroes. But it was the fact that it went unchecked. The mistakes happened, and they happened again.
Well, it strikes me that, you know, huge parts of the NHS are understaffed. It's not just maternity, but there was a culture here of arrogance that they didn't want to hear parents' concerns. They were almost cruel and remorseless, not learning the lessons from their mistakes.
Yeah, because it went on between 2000 and 2019, and it just went on and on and on, and they didn't learn from the incidences. And
what could you learn? Like, what, in terms of the pressure midwives would be under, or the supervision that they're under, or the level to which they are trained? I mean, you're recently retired. What would you say about the pressure you would have been under as a midwife?
The pressures are massive. When I look at my 42 years as a nurse and a midwife, I find that the pressures have grown and grown and grown and grown, and is so much now that is why there is such a mass exodus of midwives and nurses out of the profession, or people taking early retirements or changing different routes, because there is so much pressure that you actually start feeling vulnerable whether you as a person are going to be delivering a safe and adequate and compassionate care.
Nagma, talk to me about this so-called natural birth dogma. This came out in the report that there was this real reluctance from staff to perform C-sections, even when things were getting complicated. Is that something that you've seen? Because I definitely think that's something I experienced during my pregnancies. There was a real reluctance to perform C-sections. They really, really didn't approve of them, almost frowned upon.
From a cost basis or a clinical
there
basis?
were claims that babies that are born through C-sections have higher rates of allergy, higher rates of obesity, and it was encouraged that the baby passes through the birth canal. But that's all well and good until you get a complicated delivery.
Yes, I have seen this. We went through a period of time that they encouraged us to go for natural birth. That was a natural birth campaign. We were all encouraged to push for it. And also, we all know that caesarean section certainly is not the quickest or the easiest or the poshest mode of delivery. We all know that, like any other major surgery, with it has got possible complications. But at the end of the day, number one, the women have got to be given a choice. And number two, it's got to be clinically advised. So if there is, as a clinician, as a midwife, we are there for anything that is normal. Once we identify abnormality, we have got to escalate that to the obstetrician. And they work with us. They hear us. They discuss it with us. A lot of times, when I have had discussions with my doctors, when they'll go, shall I give this lady another hour? And I'll go, no.
Yeah.
She needs that baby out by caesarean section now. Or if the decision is been made that we wait for another hour or the next 2 hours, I have sometimes gone over them and rang the consultant and I said, look, I am worried. And as soon as they hear me, they'll go, yes, Nagma, go.
Because you see, you're one of those professions, one of those jobs where you're not paid for when it goes right, you're paid for when it goes wrong.
Oh, gosh, yes. And we are not even paid for that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with regards to the natural birth and vaginal births, of course, it all started changing because the NHS England was actually saying that we have got to keep a quota because we had a section on our board, in our labour board, that we used to write the percentage of our audits for the caesarean sections until NICE said, no, women have got a choice. Though that choice they have is still got to be encouraged on the correct way, so the woman makes the correct choice. Because majority of the lady, once your labour pain starts, you're going to say section.
Get
Just
it out.
give me a
Get it out.
caesarean.
Nagma, I want to ask you, Eamonn said and quoted Don Ockenden yesterday saying, you know, women aren't necessarily safe giving birth in the UK. We heard, didn't we, that West Mercia Police are currently investigating 600 possible cases up there. You know, with all of that going on, there'll be pregnant people watching this, about to give birth, very, very frightened. Is there anything that women themselves, and indeed their partners, can do to try and make sure that the maternity care that they will receive is good? What should they be looking for example?
It's quite hard because at the moment everybody's reading the papers, they are looking at and they are obviously reading all the internet, they follow different social media platforms. So I would say literally get yourself as much knowledge as you can, which you can get it on the internet, nice and easy, and you go through the correct channels. And when you arrive, talk to your midwife, discuss your fears and anxieties with your midwife and your obstetrician. We are there, we have to listen. It's our job to listen. This comes naturally within us.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually quite upset to read the recommendations with regards to care and compassion. When I started my nurse training, they didn't teach us about care and compassion because it came naturally within you.
Yeah.
This is something that inside you.
You represented maybe one of the most undervalued jobs there are, or there could possibly be, and maybe this report highlights how we should be appreciating and training and valuing midwives more. Could I just finish by asking this, Nagme? What is it like bringing new life into the world?
It is very, I can't explain it, but to try to explain it is one of the most beautiful, one of the most incredible, and one of the most rewarding experiences one can go through, and is not. I have delivered over 5,500 babies, and every single one of them, I can cry.
Yeah.
I can cry with the family's reaction, with the couple's reaction, with the grandparents' reaction, friends, and it's incredible to bring life into this world, and
Which makes what we're talking about all the more sad.
It's the more sad, especially when these people trusted the NHS.
Yeah.
This is the system that has failed them, and this shouldn't have happened.
Thank you very much indeed. Nagme Temurian Yates is a recently retired midwife who has delivered 5,500 babies.
It's just incredible.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I must say, for all those women and babies that you delivered, what a lovely midwife you must have been. I can tell already. You just exude warmth.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I fell in love with every one of our midwives.
I think I did as well. I love my midwives. I'm so grateful.
Absolutely
Thank you very much. And also, I really want to say that from the depth of my heart, I feel and can empathise with all the parents who, or not all the families who have gone through this very hard and painful experience that they shouldn't have gone.
Privileged to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
13 minutes past 6 o'clock on day 36 of the Russian invasion, and the country of Ukraine braces itself for fresh waves of attacks, even after Russia said it was withdrawing troops.
Well, almost 2 weeks ago, we brought you the story of a couple from Durham who were going to the Polish border to pick up 18 Ukrainian refugees.
They had made space for these refugees in their farmhouse. They had hoped the families would be settled into life here by now, but unfortunately, that isn't the case.
Yeah, they've been struggling to get visas processed, and they're now on day 13. Our reporter, Rachel Sweeney, has the story.
Hopefully they'll enjoy relaxing in there.
They were excited, optimistic and determined to make a difference.
We do know the children's ages and names.
Paul Aitchison and Helene Kell prepared their farmhouse for 18 Ukrainian refugees. They packed up 200 bags of donations and made their way to the Polish border on March the 18th. The moment they met their sponsors was as emotional as they expected.
A really happy moment, knowing that we'd met them and that they just were so appreciative of us being there.
The problem is that they're still there. Applications were filled out 10 days ago. Checks were carried out at the visa centre then. They were told processing would take 72 hours, but it's now been more than 3 times that.
One centre in particular will only put refugees up for 3 nights because their expectation is after that they move on. So without people from Britain and sponsors and the UK government support, they genuinely have got nowhere to go. And the damning story is certain individuals that I speak to in the visa centre say they are considering heading back to Ukraine and taking the chances there because this process is just not working.
The couple say conditions are so poor in these available centres that 2 of their sponsor children have been hospitalised.
The sheer volume of people, they can't cope with them. So actually in Warsaw Central Station, they've got a notification up saying, look, we recommend you proceed through Warsaw into surrounding areas because Warsaw's full. And I think that's why we're still seeing a lot of people sleeping on the streets.
Where our actual family is, we've had to move them from the PTAC centre because 2 of them ended up in hospital on drips.
Paul and Helene also reached out to their local MP. They've been told their case is being worked on, but say the lack of government support is unforgivable.
Government have reached out to the British people to say, look, we need you to be part of this process. Phase 1, you need to go out there and find a connection. And we are doing that. We've been filling in applications, we've been matching people, we've been getting them sponsors, we've been liaising with people in the UK, we've got translators from the UK who are chipping in, we've got people raising funds, sending it over so that we can keep this process going. And the government are just doing absolutely nothing to help.
The Refugees Minister, Lord Harrington, said, "We are starting to see progress because of changes the Home Office made to streamline the visa process and put additional resources into the system. However, we need to do more and will be making further improvements to bring people to the UK as quickly as possible." A house waits for these refugees. When they will finally be able to call it home remains in the hands of the British government. Rachel Sweeney, GB News.
With the time just after 6:15, these are the news headlines you're waking up to.
A damning report has found catastrophic errors at the Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital, saying 201 babies and 9 mothers could have survived if they'd received better care. The independent inquiry investigated 1,500 clinical instances and revealed repeated failures over a 20-year period.
The Ukrainian president will address a joint sitting of the Australian Federal Parliament by video this morning. Vladimir Zelensky will then address the Dutch Parliament, followed by Belgian lawmakers this afternoon.
Chris Rock says he's still processing his altercation with Will Smith at the Oscars, but we'll talk about it at some point. Smith slapped the comedian across the face following a joke about his wife and her hair loss.
Now, the Prime Minister faced a grilling yesterday at PMQs after the Metropolitan Police issued 20 fixed fines for gatherings, parties during lockdown at Downing Street.
The Labour leader Keir Starmer even called on the Prime Minister to resign, asking why is he still here. So what does the future hold for Boris Johnson? Deputy editor of the website Conservative Home, Henry Hill, joins us in the studio this morning. Henry, look, he's not going to resign over this, it's quite clear, is he? Even if he's fined?
No, absolutely not. If he resigns, then that's it for him. He doesn't have any chance, as he sees it, to pull it back. Whereas if he clings on, there's probably another 2 years at most until the general election, and that gives him time to try and turn things around with the public, win another legacy. So he absolutely has no intention of resigning.
I suppose there's lots of arguments against his resignation at this period, given the fact that we are in this, tragedy situation in Ukraine. And perhaps the best way to settle it would be at the polls with an election. Let the people decide whether or not this is a matter for them.
I mean, I'm always slightly dubious of this reasoning because it's always the case that either nothing's wrong, in which case why would you get rid of the Prime Minister, or you can't get rid of the Prime Minister because something's wrong, which if you take them together means that you should never get rid of a Prime Minister, which is obviously something that they would like you to think. I don't know if Boris Johnson is actually central to the British government's efforts in Ukraine. That's mostly being led by the Defence Secretary, but it will be used as cover. And I think what's really the problem here is that Tory MP, you need the will on the Tory backbenches to move against Boris Johnson for this to have any legs. And the Ukraine story is giving them a reason not to do it. Now, I think from the Conservative Party's perspective, they need to be careful about this, because if you look at the Prime Minister's standing with the public, it is well down. And the fact that we're not going to be necessarily talking about Partygate in a couple of months doesn't mean it's not going to have done huge damage.
And he's not talking about it now. Yesterday he said, I'm not going to provide a running commentary on all of this. How does he get away with that? If he indeed has had a fixed penalty notice, those around him have closed ranks, they don't want to mention it, and he believes that simply not mentioning it makes it go away.
In the sense that the news will eventually have to start talking about something else. He's right. You know, this is if you cling on long enough and you're shameless enough, eventually the news agenda moves on, more news happens. And I think that he's been helped throughout this crisis by the fact that it's been so strung out. You know, we had the Sue Gray report, but not really, because the Metropolitan Police were getting involved. Now the Metro have announced 20 fines, but they've not said who it is. So at every point, the story's been strung out, and there hasn't been this crisis point that might have led to a sort of critical mass against Boris Johnson. But it doesn't mean that the public aren't paying attention. The Prime Minister's ratings are well down from where they were. And it might be the case that the Tories think they've got through it because he hasn't been forced out, but then they lose in 24.
Prime Minister's ratings are always down at this stage in the electoral cycle, though, aren't they? I mean, you'd expect it. It would be very odd if they weren't. I suppose I just wonder if, with the kicking the can down the road, if there will ever be this day of reckoning, as it were. We were told all along the minute a fine is issued, it shows that criminal activity happened in Whitehall and Downing Street and that he misled Parliament. Well, that happened yesterday. And nothing's changed. So, even when, if and when he is fined, even when Sue Gray's report is fully put out, will that day of reckoning come?
I suspect that it won't, just because you need... It's not just a matter of the facts, it's a matter of the political will to act. And Conservative MPs are remarkably reluctant, for all their reputation for ruthlessness, to move against him. They really needed a big bang early in the story, I think, to put them over the top. That hasn't happened, and now they're all sort of herding together in the better safe than sorry camp.
I just want to ask you, because you are from Conservative home, and there'll be a lot of people listening and watching at home who are Conservatives, who are Boris Johnson supporters, and who are affronted by the discussion about him going. Why do you think it matters? Why is it relevant to the papers, to us as journalists? Why do you think that we are still talking about it? Is it because we haven't got anything better to talk about, or is there a fundamental issue at heart?
No, I mean, you can look at it on two levels, right? On a purely tactical level, it has very obviously damaged the Conservative Party standings an awful lot compared to where the party was in November. And if you want the Conservatives to govern and to win again in 2023 or 2024, that has to be something that you bear in mind. But also, remember back before Ukraine, at the height of this crisis, we were talking about people who've made enormous sacrifices during the pandemic, people who had, for the overwhelming majority of people, followed the rules. And what this story did was it made them feel like mugs. It cheapened their sacrifices. And I think that is important, especially, God help us, we know we don't have to go into lockdown again. But if we did, it isn't obvious that the Prime Minister still has the moral authority to order us back into our homes.
You get these politicians and they constantly preach things like, about Dominic Cummings or whatever. When you become the story, it's time to move on. Boris Johnson is the story. If I was interviewing him today, no matter what he was on to talk about, I would say, first thing, have you or haven't you? Have you had a fixed penalty notice or not? It is important. It does matter. Why does he think it doesn't matter?
Well, the ridiculous thing is that he might not even know if he's got a notice for another week, because the police have announced 25.
Well, why can't he just say, well, as it stands yet, nothing's come through the letterbox yet, I haven't been served with anything? I would think more of politicians if they actually spoke plain English and told the truth.
I mean, so would a lot of us, but they sort of unlearn the habit over all the years of being in politics, and it's hard to pick it back up again.
And do you think, given the situation in Ukraine, the fact that we're looking at other countries like Russia and we're being critical of their regime, as it were, that it actually takes away some of our moral authority with that? If we've got a Prime Minister that's prepared to play fast and loose with the truth, is prepared to lie in the Commons, then how are we able to criticise Putin for lying about what he's up to in Ukraine?
I think the scandal generally diminishes the impression of our government and our institutions overseas. Obviously, there's no comparison between this scandal, bad as it is in the context of democratic politics, and the Russian regime and so on. But it does, if we're trying to present our best face to the world and really highlight our system of values versus those of competing nations, then it really does help if our politicians hold themselves to a higher standard, or at least to the standard that they set when they passed all the lockdown regulations in the first place.
OK, what do you think? We think we know what most of you think anyway. Henry Hill is the deputy editor of the Conservative Holmes site. So thank you, Henry. Thanks for your take on things. Time, 24 minutes past 6.
Yeah, we're going to be hearing from the unpaid carers. Looking for more support. That's after this short break.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Just looking ahead at what's still to come on the programme today. Today is the day for P&O, deadline for them to re-employ those sacked workers. We've got an exclusive interview with one of the seafarers involved just before 7.
And coming up in the next hour, are NHS workers subjected to too much stress? We'll be speaking to a junior doctor who says she's felt broken during her shifts on the wards.
Let's now talk about unpaid carers. They're facing financial difficulties because of the current cost of living crisis, according to Carers UK.
The charities say that without urgent support from government, many who are looking after their loved ones at home won't be able to cope with these rising bills.
Well, our reporter Anna Riley has been speaking to Carers UK about this issue, and she joins us now to tell us more. Anna, could you just explain or outline to people the situation with unpaid carers and what it's like for them?
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. Across the UK, there's 6.5 million unpaid carers. They're looking after loved ones who are unwell, disabled, seriously ill or older. But with the rising costs of living, research from Carers UK has showed that 45% of unpaid carers are unable to manage their monthly expenses, with 14% already falling into arrears with their energy bills. The research that they've done also shows that in the months ahead, more than 2 in 5 unpaid carers thought that they won't be able to heat their home, and a third are looking to use food banks just to survive. Now, carers' allowance is due to increase on April the 11th, in line with the Consumer Price Index, but payments will increase by £2.10 a week. That means that weekly payments will go from £67.60 to £69.70 a week, which over the course of a year amounts to £109.20. But Carers UK just say this isn't enough. I spoke to Emily from the charity, and this is what she had to say.
Unpaid carers, we shouldn't forget that they're doing an incredible job. That's families looking after family members that are ill or disabled, and the value of their support is effectively £193 billion a year. It's way above what we put into the NHS. And if they get carers allowance, the main carers benefit, it's only £67.60 a week. It is the lowest benefit of its kind. And for that, they have to do at least 35 hours of care a week. And they are desperately worried about energy bills. And it's not simply a case of turning down the heating or not using it, really are stretched to the limit. So some carers have been telling us that they can't reduce their energy bills because they're running essential pieces of equipment that are keeping people alive. They can't turn the heating down because they need the heating higher for the person that they care for. Otherwise their health is put at risk. And really we need more to help them, much more. The benefit is only going to go up by £2. That's by 3.1%, and that's a fraction of the increase that they need to meet these new bills.
Ruth's shut.
Emily there saying that unpaid carers are saving the economy billions of pounds, and they're holding families together as well. I spoke with Debbie Cooper. She's a carer for her 50-year-old husband. He's got motor neuron disease. He was diagnosed 3 years ago, but over the years his condition has worsened. He's now unable to walk and talk, and he has to eat with assistance as well. She provides round-the-clock care for him with the support of carers, and she spoke to me about the struggle that she faces.
It's just pittance, really, what you have to survive on, as well as having to look after that person and care for them and put you 100% in, also trying to juggle things with bills and things like that, because it isn't enough money for them. It just isn't. Physically, it's very, very tough because, liftings, even though Matt's thin, he's still like a dead weight trying to lift that person. So before we had the carers in, I had to do it on my own, and found him a couple of times on the floor. Trying to lift that person on your own is pretty scary. There's been times when I've come down and thought, is he actually still with us? Because, it was just, that was tough. But mentally, it's very draining, more I found mentally, because I just found it very lonely, because my husband is not my husband no more, because we can't do anything what we used to do together. Absolutely nothing. He can't even hold my hand. You can give him a kiss on the cheek, but it's very challenging, and people make out, oh, you're so brave. It's not about being brave. It's Matt's my husband, and I love him to bits, and I'll do anything what it takes to support his needs.
And we spoke to the Department of Work and Pensions about this push that Carers UK are doing to increase the amount of monthly allowance that unpaid carers get. And this is what a spokesman from the organisation said. They said that they recognise the valuable role of unpaid carers, and said universal credit includes a carer's element worth more than £160 a month, and that those in receipt of carer's allowance may be entitled to other support, including benefits. They say they also understand the pressures that people are facing with the cost of living. And they say that these are global challenges, but the government has taken action to support families worth over £22 billion. Now, the ongoing issue of carers' allowance is set to be debated in Parliament very soon. And as we get updates on this story, we will bring them to you.
Anna, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So important, the role of carers, and again, people who we probably undervalue and we should just admire much, much more. If you are one, our respect to you.
Well, get in touch with us if you are as well. You might be coming off a shift or heading off to work in a moment to do one. Let us know your experiences. We'd love to share them with our audience.
OK. Look, please stay with us. We're going to a break. We've got the newspapers, David Wooding, Liz Kershaw. They'll be reading them so you don't have to, right after this. GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
.36 is the time. Good morning, wherever you're watching or listening. This is GB News at Breakfast with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster.
The headlines this hour: a damning report has found catastrophic errors at the Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital, saying 201 babies and 9 mothers could have survived if they'd received better care. The independent inquiry investigated 1,500 clinical instances and revealed repeated failures over a 20-year period.
More in our newspaper review shortly. The Ukrainian president will address a joint sitting of the Australian Federal Parliament by video this morning. Volodymyr Zelensky will then address the Dutch Parliament, followed by Belgian lawmakers this afternoon.
The Foreign Secretary is to urge India to join allies in opposing Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Liz Truss is in New Delhi for talks with counterparts amid concerns the Indian Prime Minister is reluctant to publicly condemn the actions of Putin.
And the Hollywood actor Bruce Willis is stepping away from his career after being diagnosed with aphasia. In an Instagram post, his daughter Rumer says the condition, which affects a person's ability to speak or understand language, is impacting his cognitive abilities and his ability to act.
And Tom Parker from the band The Wanted has died aged 33 after being diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumour. The pop star revealed his cancer diagnosis in October 2020 and had begun radiotherapy and chemotherapy.
There, actually, and this realization when we talk about cognitive issues and dementia, Alzheimer's, as to what may have brought this about with him as well. It's a big wake-up call for all of us. He's 67 years of age.
Yeah, and that's quite young these days to be stricken with an illness like that. We're more open to talk about brain injuries and
I think that's
things like
good,
Alzheimer's, for instance. Now we used to just dismiss people when they went into dementia.
Well, I'll tell you, there was this report last week about we should take the supplement vitamin B9 in order to stave this off. And I've been taking it every day since, yeah.
And there's lots in the papers, actually, about different things you can eat to stave off various illnesses. There's a story in one of the papers today about eating an avocado twice a week has beneficial effects for your health. And it's about having a balanced diet, a healthy lifestyle, and just looking for the warning signs and keeping regularly.
Yeah, but you always think with somebody like an actor who's spent their whole career learning lines, we're always told, aren't we, that these mental things are really helpful, in staving off these sorts of diseases. So it's an extra tragedy and obviously such a heartthrob as well. Yeah. It's really sad. And
as to, his situation, it would affect his ability to be able to pick up a line, as part of whoever else is in the scene with them and whatever. And it's all just very, very sad, but it does bring it home that no one is immune from all of this.
Even tough guys.
Even tough guys. Hard mans, right. Yeah, absolutely.
I always wonder now, in my advancing years, and friends who are all older than me, obviously, if you pick up on signs that somebody you care about is showing difficulty in choosing words or formulating a sentence or forgetting they've just asked you the same question, should you say something? Yeah. Or do you just ignore it? Or is it cruel or kind to say,
You're
Do you
so
think
right.
you should get
I
checked?
think the story behind the story is so interesting because, as we were saying, this big hard man, big success story, but there's obviously been awkward and embarrassing probably conversations with him, with his daughters, with his wife and his ex, trying to come to terms with that. Interesting that he hasn't come out and said it. It's been the family that have announced it on his behalf. I'm sure it's been really difficult.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, they're saying all the time now, aren't they? There are different tests coming through to check whether you will develop Alzheimer's in the future, checking your genes and DNA and taking samples. But I think until they've got a cure...
I'd rather not know.
What's the point of knowing? And
Do you want to know, David?
I don't think so.
No.
I'd like to have some clue of what I could do to try and avoid it.
Yeah.
But some people would just rather get on with their life. The problem is we're all living so much longer because there's so many cures for so many of the routine illnesses which would have seen us all off by that sort of age. And now we're living longer, and so other problems are arising. That
talking about living, bringing life into the world, we had an amazing midwife half an hour ago on the programme talking about her story in this Telford and Shrewsbury NHS Trust scandal, and it is an absolute scandal. You go with the Times and their front page, childbirth is not safe for women in England, says the report's author.
Well, I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised. I've been banging on about this for 32 years, since I first encountered maternity services in the NHS. I've written about it. I wrote an article for the Sunday Times about the NHS, cause of death. They put the headline, cause of death, the NHS. And it's just, I'll talk about more about this as the morning goes on, but I think the absolute essence of this, having discharged myself from the NHS, not that I was an inpatient at the time, but their maternity services, and thought, this isn't good enough. It's not supposed to be like this. And I went and paid for it, which at the time, the first time cost me £3,000. But I thought, right, well, I won't have a holiday this year or maybe next year. I can't make a better investment in my safety or my babies.
And was it a better investment?
Oh, yeah. So then the next time I thought, right, I've moved out of London. It's going to be a better experience because it's Milton Keynes, it's a new city, it's a relatively new modern hospital. It's going to be okay. It wasn't. So I thought about it, obviously, a lot. And I've realised, and it's not just maternity services. I've had it with my grandparents, with my parents, with my children who've needed emergency attention as they've grown up. If you go to the NHS, the overwhelming attitude is, oh, it's free, take it or leave it. And if you're paying, you get treated like a customer, and with care, with courtesy. People care whether you're getting a good service.
So you think this has a connection with the survey that was published yesterday saying that there's a 25% decrease in people's confidence in the NHS?
I think there's a lot of fear and lack of confidence about the NHS. I certainly wasn't clapping for the NHS.
Really?
No, why would I, Eamonn? My mum was thrown out of hospital with 5 chronic medical conditions that she needed nursing care for and daily medical attention from doctors. She was thrown out to make room and put in a care home on February the 27th, 2020, and died in a care home, not having seen a doctor since, on March the 17th. Why would I be clapping? But as I said, I've come up with so many experiences which I've tried to share, but what you get is, oh, the NHS, they're all angels, they're all saints, it's untouchable. That there are people like that. Yeah. But overall, it's not right.
And David, I just want to ask you on this story, because it is on the front of pretty much most of the papers this morning. I mean, the chief executive of the Trust has apologised, but she said she's not going to stand down. But there have been something like 10 chief executives of the Trust over the time span. What is the answer in all of this? I mean, Sajid Javid also has apologised, but surely there needs to be a review of all maternity services. And we urgently need this 2,000 shortfall of midwives plugged, don't we?
Absolutely. 20 years this went on, and when you read the full report, it's wall-to-wall shambles. I mean, one of the problems is we're just discussing here is the politicians put the NHS on a pedestal, and we're trying to have this debate. We all clapped, as you just recalled, 2 years ago. We were all standing outside our houses clapping for the NHS, and rightly so. A lot of people were putting their lives on the line and dedicated themselves to saving us all. But a lot of what happens in the NHS depends on your own personal experience. If they save somebody's life, a relative who goes in, a loved one who goes in with a life-threatening illness, and they're saved, we sing their praises. If you have a bad experience, particularly in childbirth, it usually ends happily. The baby is born, and we all forget about the bad experiences. And we do need to have a debate about reform, about funding.
Okay,
about the whole picture.
guys, tweet us at GBNews if you've got a view on what our panellists are saying. David, front page of the Financial Times. This is an interesting fallout from the Ukraine war. They're saying Germany and Austria prepare gas rationing in a standoff with Russia.
Yes, so it's starting. We've been hearing for some time that the West relies too much on Russia for its gas supplies, and now Germany and Austria are discussing actually putting households first and cuts to industry. Now, there was a conversation with the German Chancellor and Putin yesterday in which they tried to get over this hurdle of paying for all the gas in rubles, which is demanding from unfriendly states, as he calls them. It might be that a deal is done whereby they can pay through Gazprom Bank. However, it does show the danger of relying on Russia. We only have 4% of our gas supplies from there. But if this happens, that started to push the gas prices up already, 9%. All I can say is thank goodness you can't panic buy gas.
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite. You have to cut back on it.
Liz, this is a fascinating take on the situation in Russia. The GCHQ chief, he's in Australia, he's given a speech overnight. He's the guy with the biggest ears in the country, listening in on us all. What's he been saying then about Putin?
He's been saying that Putin is in a bubble, a vacuum. Of course, everybody kowtows to him because he terrorises them, has them killed, deported to the gulags or whatever, and he's not getting the true picture of what's going on in the Ukraine militarily, about the intelligence he's being given. They're all telling him what he wants to hear. So I read this and thought, well, if that's true, it's very, very disturbing. You might think, great, Putin's in the dark, but then he could make decisions, what he thinks are rational decisions based on misinformation from his generals, etc., and politicians. On the other hand, I'm kind of stepping back and thinking about it, because aren't we in an information war as well at the moment? Propaganda on both sides.
I think our spies, our GCHQ
I think it's their job.
Really?
I think it's part. I'm not saying this man is insincere or immoral, but it's part of his job is to put information out to skew the public's perspective. It's like the Ukrainians have done a fantastic job, haven't they, on spreading information, and it has to be in some cases disinformation. That's what happens in wars. That's what propaganda is.
For the moment, Liz and David, thank you both very much indeed. They're going to be back in 50 minutes' time. Let's bring you up to date with what's happening news-wise. The Health Secretary has apologised to families who suffered what he termed unimaginable trauma due to maternity care failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital Trust over 2 decades. He admitted there had been basic oversights at every level of patient care after a damning report said 201 babies and 9 mothers could have survived if they had have received better care.
The Ukrainian president will address a joint sitting of the Australian Federal Parliament by video this morning. Volodymyr Zelensky will then address the Dutch Parliament, followed by Belgian lawmakers this afternoon.
Chris Rock says he's still processing his altercation with Will Smith at the Oscars, but will talk about it at some point. Smith slapped the comedian across the face following a joke about his wife and her hair loss. OK, the Justice Secretary, Dominic Raab, who was on the show yesterday, said he will appeal to the parole board and their decision, suggesting the mother of baby P should be freed from jail.
Tracy Connolly was convicted in 2009 for torturing her 17-month-old son, Peter, known as Baby P.
Well, yesterday the Justice Secretary told us about his plans for the parole board.
We want to re-anchor it back into its core purpose. We want to make public protection the overriding priority. And I also want to see victims' voices heard more clearly, more loudly, and their role to be reflected more centrally.
Well, that was Dominic Raab just yesterday talking about cases like this. I don't expect he was expecting to put this into practice quite so soon. Marilyn Hawes is CEO and founder of Freedom from Abuse and joins us from Bedfordshire. Good morning. Look, what's your response to this? I mean, the general public automatically recoil from this. Do you think that this is the right approach?
I don't think she should be coming out on parole, but I do think it's the right approach. Absolutely, it's the right approach. When you look back, twice the parole board have turned her down. And when she did come out on licence, she had to go back in again because she broke the licensing restrictions. But even when she was at her trial, the judge called her very manipulative. She won't have changed being very manipulative because that's part of her personality type. And she has the ability, as many offenders do. I mean, I go into prisons before COVID, obviously, and I've spoken to child abusers, and they are manipulative. That's part of it's in their DNA, and they are very capable of, charming the prison officers and the rest of it. And the thing is, I mean, she actually admitted that she sacrificed her child for the two men. One that was living with her, she had lied to the services about that she had a man living there, and the brother of that man was a paedophile. So I'm sorry, she shouldn't. I mean, I just think you take a life of a child, then you do life. I mean, Baby P had no parole, did he?
But the law is the law, and it's set by the judiciary. It's separate from government.
Well, except the Justice Minister may disagree with you on that.
Yeah, well, this is the interesting debate, isn't it? Because they are a big part of British democracy. Is the legislature and the judiciary are separate. Should elected politicians be stepping on the toes of parole professionals who have been following the rules that have been set?
Well, we don't know. There's no transparency as to why she's being released, is she? Is she going to come out and very quickly hook up with another man, have another baby perhaps, and then you don't know. How is she not a risk? She's not around children in prison, is she? And I just think the Justice Secretary should be getting involved. The Attorney General should be getting involved. There is no transparency as to why they've made this decision. And I deal with how many children have been killed in the last, say, 9 months by parents? What message is that putting out to people who are currently harming their children who we don't know about yet, those who are in the queue to be served a sentence in the courts, those who are already serving time? What message is this giving?
Well, Marilyn, I suppose the Justice Secretary's intervention and his review of all of this may now send a different message, but you've made your view very clear on this one, and sticking up for these children who have no one else to stick up for them. Thank you very much indeed, Marilyn Hawes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
OK, 7 minutes now before 7 o'clock.
Now, a P&O ferry worker has exclusively spoken to us here at GB News about the day he was sacked on the spot whilst aboard a ship in Rotterdam.
He says staff were ordered back to Britain on coaches, no food, water or even a ticket home. So these new revelations have come amid today's deadline for P&O workers to accept or decline their compensation packages. Our reporter Ellie Costello has been speaking to the P&O employee and has this interview. We've kept his identity secret for legal reasons.
For staff on board the Spirit of France ferry, which was docked in Rotterdam, they were sacked via a written statement. They were told to get off the ferry and return back to the UK immediately. Many of the sacked employees had lived and worked on the ship for over 20 years. One sacked seafarer, Toby, not his real name, has told me exclusively what that day was like.
The captain said there was going to be a big announcement. He didn't sound quite right on the tannoy. Then the security guards started moving up, coming up the gangway onto the ship. They told everybody to go to the front bar, and all the security guards came along and blocked all the exits. and then some man in a suit read out his statement, and we were all told to pack our stuff, get off the ship as soon as possible, and they'd lead us to our cabins to pack. It's unbelievable. It felt like we'd been invaded by a load of pirates, to be honest with you. And then after that happened, they started bringing the crew on. I think they're all Colombians, and we're still at the front bar. That's the only time it nearly kicked off on our ship, because the crew was reacting bad enough from being sacked. And there you are. And then the agency label was taken upstairs, and our chef went upstairs to check on the staff food, and they were eating all of our staff food. Can you believe it? It's unbelievable. The way they treated us made you feel like you were worthless. You know, I mean, we've worked our butts off basically for the last 2 years, and now it's coming to the end like at the end of a tunnel, and you're sacked. And you get repaid by being sacked on the spot and replaced by slave labour. That's what it is. Slave labour.
So why do you think it was done in the way that it was? Why do you think P&O Ferries got security involved?
The security wasn't even there for our safety. It was in case we vandalised the ship, like the French did when they got sacked, because they smashed their ships up big time. But I mean, we're not like that. We're English. We're seafarers. On the gangway, we were asked our name and then handed an envelope with our redundancy offer on it. Even if I was offered my job back, I wouldn't take it if Peter Hebblethwaite was still there. The whole system's got to change. They've got to start caring for their workers more.
And what was the journey like back home after that experience? You must have all been so shocked.
We were put onto coaches home from Rotterdam. There was no food or water all day. We had a pregnant woman on our coach who was really stressed. We finally got to the Eurotunnel, and there weren't even any tickets booked for us. Eventually, the bus driver paid for all of our tickets on a company credit card, and we all managed to get onto our competitor DFDS's ship, and they put the whole crew in the Premier Lounge, where we got free tea and coffee. They treated us better than our own company, really.
We put these allegations to P&O Ferries. In a statement, they did not deny that the sacked seafarers were not given food, water or a ticket to get home. A spokesperson has told us, "We profusely apologise for the difficulties people had during this journey. Due to reasons outside of our control, we weren't able to use the pre-arranged route, and alternative arrangements had to be made at the last minute." In response, Toby says he does not accept P&O's apology, and this statement sums up the way that they had treated their staff. He wishes instead to thank the great British public for all of their support. Ellie Costello, GB News.
Thank you, Ellie.
Stay with us. We're going to be speaking to one of the women who was tragically affected by the biggest scandal in maternity failings in the NHS's history. That's in a few moments' time.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The author of a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal says childbirth is not safe for mothers in England.
We're going to be talking to a mother affected by that very shortly. Good morning to you. 7 o'clock is the time. This is The Breakfast Show on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster. It's the 31st of March.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. Major changes to maternity services in England are expected in the wake of a damning report into failures at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust, which revealed catastrophic mismanagement.
Labour calls for the Prime Minister to resign over Partygate as Boris Johnson continues to insist the law wasn't broken over Downing Street parties. We're going to find out what the future holds for the government after the summonses that were issued.
Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is heading to India today to urge the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
It comes as the head of British intelligence reveals Putin's advisors are afraid to tell the Russian president the truth about the war and that Russian soldiers are sabotaging their own equipment.
Don't forget you can get in touch in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or you can tweet us at gbnews. Okay, our top story this morning, and the author of a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal has warned that childbirth is still not safe until the recommendations of her report are adopted.
Failings over 20 years at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust led to the deaths of 201 children and left others severely brain damaged.
The report also found that the trust was not held to account by external bodies.
Healthcare expert Donna Ockenden, who authored this report, said it was astounding that systemic failings had continued for so long.
Well, in the House of Commons yesterday, the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, apologised to the families affected.
To all the families that have suffered so greatly, I am sorry. The report clearly shows that you were failed by a service that was there to help you and your loved ones to bring life into this world. We will make the changes that the report says are needed at both a local and national level.
The Trust itself has also apologised, adding that it has already made changes and will make more in the future.
Well, one of those mothers who lost a child in this tragedy is Julie Rawlings, and she joins us this morning. Julie, first of all, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, and we're incredibly grateful that you are being brave enough to talk to us about it this morning. If it's not too hard for you, do you mind telling us a little bit about what happened to you at that hospital in 2002?
Obviously, we lost our daughter through a failed ventouse and forceps delivery. Olivia was born with catastrophic injuries, injuries that she was never going to survive. We knew, hindsight, we knew something was wrong when the consultant started to panic and was shouting out, "Don't do this to me." And then obviously as Olivia was born, there was no sound, but nobody was telling us what was going on.
You know, you were there at the centre of all this, Julie. You know, it's happening to your body. Your child is being delivered. Were you aware, or were you fearful during that time that this isn't as it should be? I mean, I know from personal experience that the ventouse extraction it's quite vigorous. It can be quite violent as well. It's not what you would choose. How worried were you at the time?
We were very worried because I had been told no longer than 12 hours in natural labour. They left me for 23 hours. It's because I had a back complaint. I had 19 epidurals. So there were signs that something wasn't quite right. When they came in and said that she was presenting back to back, they wanted to turn her. They hadn't examined me, so she was too high. She was still 2/5 palpable when he went in with the ventouse, which we found out later. My husband, he was the one, obviously he's there too. He said everything in him was screaming, this isn't normal. But because it was her first baby, you put your trust in the experts because you think they know what they're doing. And we wish now that we'd said something. Because after the ventouse, he was supposed to go to section. He said if it failed, he would go to section. And he didn't. He went straight in with forceps. But they say that the ventouse coming off actually fractured her skull.
Oh, and just to explain to anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, this ventouse, basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, it's like a vacuum extraction of the child, yeah? On its head.
Yes, that's right. And it can help to turn, if a child is lying back to back, which can make it difficult for natural delivery, they normally, at 1/5 palpable, can go in with a ventouse and turn the baby so the baby's presenting the right way. But that failed because she was too high.
I mean, Julia, clearly you should have had that C-section and you were badly let down. Here we are 20 years on. You should have a beautiful 20-year-old daughter, and I can only imagine the terrible tragedy and suffering that you've experienced as a result of this. You say that you didn't speak out at the time. Completely understandable. Why would you? You know, there was no reason for you to believe that there was anything other than, you know, just a tragedy happening there. When did it become clear to you then that there was something much more sinister here? And, you know, this was early on in all of this.
It was my father. It was definitely my father. My father was there. When after we'd had her baptised, they told us that she wasn't going to make it. So we went through, my mum took me through because I'd seen her, but I'd never held her because they'd been doing all sorts of things on her. And when we went through and I took her bonnet off, that was when we could start to see some of the injuries that she had. And it was my father that he demanded that someone come down because he said it was far wrong. What he was seeing was far wrong, and that there was no way they were going to get away with this.
But you could see, Julie, you could see all that. Did you get the impression, and we talk about failings at the hospital trust, did you get the impression that this was a team well led, that a team that was well trained, a team that had confidence? What was your impression? I mean, you know, no one sets out to do wrong, but some people can be out of their depth or they haven't got leadership. What was your general feeling about those who were tending to you?
We had a room full of experts that day when we got to theatre, and not one of them spoke up. At the trial, they spoke up. They said that I was supposed to have a consultant. I ended up with a registrar, and at the trial, they explained he had his foot off the floor on the bottom of the bed while he was pulling with these forceps. Everybody round about him could see what was going on and nobody stepped in, not one person. And through the night as well, they were going on about my notes being in a terrible state and it would take them half the night to sort them out. We were being told one thing and then they were doing another. They put in my notes that they'd given me Syntocin. There was never another bag put up. The only bag it was up was because I'd had the epidurals.
To relax, is it?
Just a lot of different things that day weren't sitting right with us. But we didn't. We just went with what they said. We thought that was how it was done, and it wasn't till after.
Yeah.
Julie, we realised, no.
Yeah. It's so awful, as Isabel said, you know, for you to have to recount all of this again. With the publishing of the report yesterday, is there any satisfaction at all that you get, or is it all just continually too painful for you?
It's a mixture, a roller coaster of emotions to do with the report, because it's bittersweet. The outcome of the report is incredible. It's incredible for a lot of families, like us as well. But we, unfortunately, to get to where we are, families like ourselves have had to relive this pain. And I feel that until we're provided evidence that the changes are being implemented on a regular basis, the changes stipulated within the Ockenden report, we can see that they've been taken on board and being actioned with immediate effect. This can't wait. This has to be implemented. Until then, I don't know how we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Julia Rowling, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and we can only just say from the bottom of our hearts, we're just so sorry that you had to go through this. Absolutely devastating. So sorry.
And our condolences to you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Julie's is one of, unfortunately, far too many stories that have emerged in that report, but we will be doing our best to explain it and paying tribute to people involved throughout the programme this morning.
Now, Boris Johnson yesterday faced a grilling at Prime Minister's questions after the Metropolitan Police said they were going to issue 20 fixed fines for parties during lockdown in Downing Street.
Well, the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, even called on the Prime Minister to resign, asking why is he still here. So what does the future hold for Boris Johnson? Journalist and author Martin Fletcher joins us now with his take. Listen, everybody has their view, and most people get in touch with us and say, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about it? Well, they can't see why we're talking about it. There's really nothing we can do about it. But he sat there yesterday, the Prime Minister, and said, I don't intend to provide a running commentary. Have you got a fixed penalty notice or not? He wouldn't answer it. It was almost as if he didn't intend to answer it. Can I just ask you, Martin, how the heck does he get away with it?
Well, he's not been dubbed the greased piglet for nothing, has he? He gets away with it through denials and lies and obfuscation and evasion and playing it long, and because, unlike any of his predecessors, he has no sense of shame or honour. I can't see any other Prime Minister in my lifetime having survived, failing to resign over charges like these.
Well, the phrase, you're making a fool of me. Is he making a fool of the British public? Aren't we all fools for following and swallowing it?
Yes. Well, it's not for lack of trying. Constituents write to their MPs. The MPs were on the verge of removing him. Then along came the invasion of Ukraine, saved him. Now he swans around the world. He goes to summits. He grandstands on the international stage. He's actually done some good things in the war. It's a mixed record in my view, but fine. And Tory MPs see his poll numbers ticking up. There's no obvious successor since Rishi Sunak imploded last week. Tory MPs can say you don't swap leaders in the middle of a war. And so he survives. But he certainly he should have gone. This is a Prime Minister who imposed upon the country the strictest, most draconian restrictions in peacetime, certainly in my lifetime, probably since World War II, and then proceeded to break those laws himself multiple times, and then proceeded to lie about that time and time again in the House of Commons.
Will the day come where he has to say, the police knocked on Downing Street door and they handed over a fixed penalty notice, or can he get away with saying none of your business?
Well, he's safe for the time being, but there are going to be wave after wave of these fixed penalty notices, and then the Sue Gray report.
I'm not saying whether he should resign or not. I'm just saying, surely to goodness, as Isabel said, instead of treating us all like fools, he can say, yeah, I did get one, but I'm still not resigning, or whatever it happens to be. It's just the fact that he will not tell the truth.
No. You know, actually, I go back to Bill Clinton. He pioneered this during the Monica Lewinsky thing. Yeah. If you have no shame and you brazen it out, more often than not, you get away with it. Yeah. And he has said it will take a Panzer division to remove him from number 10. And that's what he will try and do. So it's up to the Tory backbenchers. You know, and for them, it's a simple calculation. Is he a liability or is he an asset? And you know, if it comes to the stage where he's a liability, then they will get rid of him. They've got to have someone to replace him with, and it's not obvious who that would be at the moment.
Look, people watching this will suspect your personal politics in all of this. They'll think, well, you're clearly not a Conservative. But do you think this is about partisan politics, or is this about a higher thing?
Let me just correct you there. People think because I write New Statesman, I must be a critic of the left. Actually, I would regard myself as a moderate Tory, but I wouldn't vote for this bunch in a million years. This rabble, they are so dishonest. They have such little respect for parliamentary tradition and the institutions of this country. So I would rebut the claim that I'm a creature of the left. I'm not. I'm one of the. I would describe myself as a fanatical moderate.
Apparently we're having some difficulty with your microphone, so just you can speak into my chest here. But basically what I'm saying, final question to you, is part of his good luck, good fortune, that the main opposition party is simply not up to it?
I think Keir Starmer has done a good job in removing the reasons why people did not vote for Labour at the last election, but I don't think he has yet established a compelling reason to vote for Labour.
Very interesting. Well put, very interesting. Martin Fletcher is a journalist and author. Thank you very much indeed for that. We open the floodgates now with your views at GB News. The time, 16 minutes past 7.
The headlines: and the Health Secretary's apologised to families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to maternity care failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust over 2 decades. Sajid Javid admitted there had been basic oversight at every level of patient care after a damning report said 201 babies and 9 mothers could have survived if they'd received better care.
The Ukrainian president will address a joint sitting of the Australian Federal Parliament by video link this morning. Vladimir Zelensky will then address the Dutch Parliament, followed by Belgian lawmakers this afternoon.
Hollywood actor Bruce Willis is stepping away from his career after being diagnosed with aphasia. In an Instagram post, his daughter Rumer says the condition, which affects a person's ability to speak or understand language, is impacting his cognitive abilities.
After indicating it would scale back operations to foster trust between the two sides, Russian forces reportedly escalated their bombardment of Ukraine yesterday.
Well, last time we spoke to her in Lviv was a safe city in the west of Ukraine. Well, that is no longer the case, having seen missile strikes in the past week. Alexandra Zubel has remained in the city throughout and joins us now with her daughter, Amelia. A very good morning to you both. Lovely to see you. Bring us up to date on the situation where you are.
Hi, good morning. We're still in the city of Lviv, that is roughly 60 kilometers from the Polish border. So it used to be a safer city, no bombings here, lots of refugees from all over the country. But last Saturday, there were a couple of bombings that we experienced. So it still says a relatively safe city since they were attacking military infrastructure rather than civilian. But the message was it's no longer safe in Ukraine anywhere. So, the risk remains. And there is always this background anxiety about the fact that any city in Ukraine might be bombed at any time.
And you're talking like that, Alexandra, with Amelia sitting there on your knee. She's 6 years of age. Is she aware of what you're talking about? And is she aware that bombs may be dropped and there may be missile attacks? I mean, she's got a little frightened face on her there. this morning. Don't know if she can hear us or not. Amelia, good morning. Can you hear me? Well.
Hello.
Hello to you.
Sweetheart.
Hello to you. So, Alessandra, tell me how she thinks, tell me how she is, how she's bearing up during these just extraordinary circumstances.
Well, we had to explain her what a war is, and since her father has joined the army, we had to explain that as well. So we're talking to her in the terms that she could understand, that there might be threats and bombings. So she is clearly instructed what to do whenever there is a siren. So she stays in a couple of places. That's our apartment or the office of my company or her grandparents. And she clearly knows the safe places in those buildings. So whenever there is a siren, she follows the instructions and moves to either the bomb shelter or a safe place in that particular building. But let me give you an example. So there were 2 times when the siren caught us when I was driving, and she was really anxious and even started crying because she claimed that there would be an attack, there would be a missile, and we would be dead. We have never explained that to her, but she clearly hears conversation from adults, and even being 6 years old, she understands what's going on. And yeah, she is sometimes scared, but those places that are familiar to her, she knows them well, and she's instructed what to do, and she follows those instructions to go to the safety.
Alexandra,
so
I want to
she's
ask...
doing actually a great job.
Oh, well done. What a good girl. Alexandra, I want to ask Amelia a question. You might need to help me out. But Amelia, I just want to ask you, what do you think of Mr. Putin?
They're bad guys.
Bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a very bad guy. And have you had difficult conversations, Alexandra, about that? And I ask you that as a mother myself to a 6-year-old who's very aware of what's happening in your country. Have you had to try and explain? Because I've been at a loss to explain to my 6-year-old exactly why he's doing what he's doing.
It's really difficult to explain, especially given that many people here in Ukraine speak Russian, and whenever she hears the language, it's really confusing for a 6-year-old to understand why people who are attacking us speak in the same language. And but she knows that there are bad guys that are attacking us, and we're really having hard times to explain that to her. This has to be explained because otherwise we cannot ensure her safety. She has to understand that there is an immediate threat. So this is how it is, but sometimes we have to use euphemism, like there was a thunder, for instance, or things like that, instead of missile attack, because she doesn't probably know what a missile is, and it's a fact. We never blame it to personalities like Putin or somebody, so it's all Russians altogether.
We've got to say goodbye to you, Alexandra. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Amelia, for sitting there listening to us. And say bye-bye. Bye-bye to you.
Bye. Stay safe. Well done for being such a good girl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much indeed. Look, we're going to hit the break. The time is 23 minutes past 7. Back after this.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. It might be the first day of April tomorrow, but today starts off freezing cold with a mixture of frost, ice, and in some places lying snow. Cold winds have arrived all the way from the Arctic, and they'll continue to blow through the rest of the day. Now, those cold winds have brought snow to places. Watch out for some icy patches first thing. And there'll be further wintry showers during the rest of the day, especially in the east and the north, so a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. Away from the showers, however, there will be some sunny spells. It's a bright enough day, but it's going to feel much colder than it has felt for some time, with a biting northeasterly wind, particularly around the southeast coast, and temperatures struggling to get to 5, 6, 7 Celsius in the east, 8 or 9 in the west. knock a few degrees off for the wind chill, of course, and through the evening, clearing skies will lead to, once again, plummeting temperatures. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in the north, there's a good chance of seeing the aurora this evening, so look out for that. But away from the clear skies in the north, there'll be further showers coming into the east at times. Again, a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. So some ice perhaps in places and a widespread frost to start off tomorrow morning. Plenty of sunshine, mind you, as we start off the day. And despite the cold start, it's going to be, for many, less windy. It's also going to be bright and dry for many. There'll be a few more showers coming into central and eastern parts of the country. Mixture of rain and sleet, I think, and some rain or sleet showers into the west of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But away from these areas, for many, it's a dry and bright day. Temperatures reaching 7 to 9 Celsius, so recovering very slightly compared to today. And that very slow recovery in temperatures continues through the weekend. Showers for many on Saturday, dry for many away from the far north on Sunday, highs of 10 degrees.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very good reading your comments today. Still to come on the programme this morning, we're asking, are NHS workers under a lot of stress or too much pressure? And around half an hour, we're going to be speaking to a junior doctor. She says she felt broken during her shifts, OK? And then coming up just after 8 o'clock, we'll be asking, what does the future hold for Boris Johnson? It appears a lot of you don't like us asking that question, but my producers have said we're asking that after 8 o'clock this morning, whether you like it or not, OK? We're going to be speaking to his biographer, Tom Bauer, on that one. First up, Paul Coyte in the studio to talk about the sports news.
I'm not doing the Boris Johnson then, is that right? I'm just doing the sport.
Don't talk about him.
Okay,
nobody wants to hear any truth about him whatsoever. Okay. So there we go. Right, you're going to start with Women's Cricket World Cup. Right.
Yeah, Cricket World Cup. England's women, a really bad start. So they're playing in New Zealand. The start of the World Cup, it was disastrous. You know, they lost 3 games on the trot, and all of a sudden, you know what World Cup is like in any sport. It's all about the momentum. They've got to the semi-final. They're playing South Africa, who have already beaten them, and it's all going extremely well. 293 for 8. England all out, after their 50 overs, so 293 for 8 wickets. Danny Wyatt, 129 she scored for England, although she was dropped 5 times. And South Africa, 67 for 4. So touch wood, it's looking very good for England
Well,
at the moment.
don't you be putting the blinkers on?
You know I'm going to do that. But anyway, it's Australia. Whoever wins in the final.
A big Premier League meeting yesterday. Interesting. That's when they look at the rules and how they can amend them, whatever. What have they come up with?
Well, they're looking at 5 substitutes because do you remember this came up during COVID?
Suits the big clubs, but not the smaller clubs.
That's the thing. It does suit the big clubs. Although recently, when you look at Liverpool and people like Jurgen Klopp, they've been complaining that there aren't enough substitutions. He doesn't actually, he very, very rarely uses 3 substitutions anyway.
Yeah.
But he's been complaining about it, so it looks like it will be 5 substitutions going forward. Every other major league in Europe uses that, and of course in international football as well. But as you say, I mean, personally, I look at smaller clubs. I mean, if you've got the big clubs and then you've got a huge roster of players, you've got strength in depth, you can just pull anybody out. There you go. You get more substitutions. So it probably would suit them better.
Yeah.
But anyway, it looks like.
But I do think when you look at teams and the academies they have, it is a terrible waste of talent that so many of these players don't make it through to the first team. But anyway, Formula One, it is going to have another race in America.
Is it all going to be in America from now?
So what's that make it?
This is the 3rd now.
Right.
So there's already Austin. Miami is going to happen this year. So now they're going to Vegas. I think the reason for this is this Netflix program, you know, the Drive to Survive, which has been really successful in the States. You know, they like the NASCAR over there, whereas Formula One is now taken off. So obviously F1, FIA are thinking this is where the money is. Let's get over to the States, and it's going to go down the strip in Vegas. So it's going to be a huge show, nighttime race. So it'll be very early in the morning here. But anyway, that's going to happen from 2023.
Now, we had some of the World Cup qualifiers being decided this week, and they've now decided for Qatar this year, they've decided the type of ball.
Obviously.
Big thing. Always remember as a kid, whether it was from a Subudio or, you know, whether you had to go out and buy it or whatever it is, what the ball was going to be for the World Cup.
Do you remember, so there was the famous old black and white diamond one, which was probably Adidas 74?
Right, okay, yeah.
Tango, which was 78, and then that was used after that. Now the new ball, have a look at this. So there it is.
Okay.
There's the new ball.
What does this ball do that previous balls didn't?
Well, I'll tell you, it's much faster. So all you've got to do is pass the ball, it'll fly off feet. It's called Al-Rila, which is called the Journey in Arabic. It's the most environmentally friendly World Cup ball ever.
Why? It's recycled, is it?
It's water-based inks and glues that are used on this ball. And it is inspired by the architecture. If you look at it, I don't know if we saw that there, inspired by the architecture of iconic boats, the flag of Qatar. But this is the thing that really sells it to me. And this is what they're saying about it, is when the ball is in motion, Eamonn, the spectrum of colours come to life to excite players and fans around the world.
It'll spin around and it'll look differently with the colours.
You won't be watching the game, you'll just be watching the kaleidoscope that is the ball.
I would have thought that goalkeepers in particular might say this is a bit off-putting.
Well, I think probably what's going to happen is that they're going to see the ball flying and just be overtaken by the kaleidoscope of colours. They won't be able to take their eye off it, and it will draw them to the ball. So who knows, less goals, but the ball's going to go
Well, the most important question of all, when your kids come and say, Mummy, Daddy, I want the new ball, how much does it cost? That'll be the real
I think probably that's it. You know what they usually do as well? They do different versions of the ball, because I've had to do this as well. And I've got, goodness knows, a collection of Euro balls and World Cup balls. They have the match ball, which is really, really expensive. And then you get the lesser ball, and then the lesser ball. I always go for the one which is about this big, which is usually the cheapest, that comes in at about a tenner, but obviously the kaleidoscope of colours is still going to be on it, so that's all that really matters.
Well, there you go. Paul Coit talking balls. No change there then.
Oh, man. Was that prepared for me, or was that, honestly, genius?
The colour was hypnotic, the whole thing, psychedelic. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We've got a break. We've got the newspapers right after that. David Wooding, Liz Kershaw. I hope we have your company. GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. The headlines are these. The Health Secretary's apologised to families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to maternity care failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust over the period of 2 decades. Sajid Javid has admitted there have been basic oversights at every level of patient care after a damning report said 201 babies and 9 mothers could have survived if they had received better care.
The Foreign Secretary is to urge India to join allies in opposing Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Liz Truss will be in New Delhi for talks with counterparts amid concerns the Indian Prime Minister is reluctant to publicly condemn Russia's actions.
The Hollywood actor Bruce Willis is stepping away from his career after being diagnosed with the rare condition aphasia. In an Instagram post, his daughter Ruma says the condition, which affects a person's ability to speak or understand language, is impacting his cognitive abilities.
Going through the newspapers now with Sun and Sunday political editor David Wooding and the broadcaster Liz Kershaw. Liz, half an hour ago we had the most heartbreaking interview with a woman part of the Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust childbirth scandal. You've gone with the Mirror, and the front page headline there is Stolen Lives, Maternity Scandal.
Well, it's the front page of every paper. But the one that's really shocks me is it's not on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Don't they care about the female readers? Anyway, the male natural birth dogma left mothers and babies to die. I mean, I think that is very much at the essence of it as well. And I certainly, don't know about you, Isabel, when I was having babies, you were a failure, you know, or you were too posh to push if you needed a caesarean section. Well, excuse me, my baby was a week overdue and over 10 pounds, and I was told I had a narrow pelvis. We both would have died. Caesareans aren't new, that's why they're called caesareans after Caesar, who was brought into the world that way. And women dying in childbirth have changed history. Queen Victoria would never have been on the throne if William IV, I think's daughter, only descendant, hadn't died in childbirth. So, you know, we should do everything we can to eradicate that. It's in the natural world, we are freaks because our children have got such big brains, our offspring, unlike other animals, that their heads are really big, and it makes it more risky. You know, don't just pop them out like rabbits or dogs. But yet there's been this stigma attached to it, and it's in the report, it's confirmed that women who desperately needed for medical reasons to have an intervention where a baby's cut out of it, and believe me, it's not nice.
No.
You wouldn't choose it. You're awake. If you're awake, it's horrific. But why do they do it? And I think it's symptomatic of other services, because I read yesterday in the paper that in Scotland now, women over 70 cannot have breast scans. So routinely they're not going to be called for them. But even if you're a woman, if you're a woman of 70 and you think you've got a lump or something wrong, you're not allowed to have a breast scan now. And basically they're saying if women over 70 come for breast scans, let's face it, the cost benefit is less, and they're clogging up the system. Then we've had all the women who've had these mesh things inserted. After childbirth has ripped them apart.
So you're saying it's almost an inconvenience being a woman. It's an inconvenience to the system.
I think discuss the fact that it's women, and I mean biological women with vaginas and wombs who have babies, and normally it's women like the wonderful midwife that you had on earlier. I've been chatting to her. Obviously a kind, dedicated professional. And I'm sure there are many like her, but because it's women treating women, it's kind of an inferior department of the health service, you know. Oh yeah, come in at 11 o'clock at night. We'll have somebody on with you, another woman, and you'll struggle all night until the male obstetrician turns up on his shift the next day. There's a lot. I've witnessed it. There's a lot of that about it as well, and being prescriptive, like men telling you. A male, consultant telling you what's best and what you're experiencing. But the main thing is, I think, is attitude, and it's across. It affects men as well. Yeah. That if you go to the NHS, it's free. Be grateful for anything that you get. Whereas if you go privately, it's yes, madam, no, madam, what would you like?
The main thing is this has got to change. This cannot be allowed to happen again on this scale. There's got to be more training. There's got to be more expertise involved in it.
2,000 midwives, but it comes back, doesn't it, to I suppose the question of the future of the NHS and the funding of the NHS. Do you put more money in it? How do you solve this problem? Is it about the executives, chief executives? Is it their fault, or is it about the culture and arrogance of the staff?
Yeah, it's not just this, is it? I mean, you've mentioned these. This is Shrewsbury and Telford. We've had the Staffordshire scandal. Yeah. We've had Morecambe scandal. We've had Alderhay in Liverpool, where they were harvesting babies' organs without parental permission. We've had another maternity scandal a couple of years ago, a report on that in North West London. And then for every one of these big reports where it's finally exposed, you've got thousands and thousands of people around the country who've come away from hospital having lost a loved one or been mistreated and with no voice.
I know, and I know this is awful, but yet part of me wants to say to all the people who do their job and do their job right and well and are dedicated, I mean, our huge thanks and respect to you for that. David, let's go to the Telegraph. This is front page, and they're talking about council tax here. This is the latest blow in the cost of living crisis.
Yes, as we all expected, braced for rising prices everywhere with gas, fuel prices, the food in the shops. The council tax, the average council tax rise is going to be £2,000. That's in Band D, which is, a 64 pound rise.
I mean, this is huge.
It's massive.
It's a huge amount of money on top of everything else people are having to do with. Why can't everybody just give us a break? Why can't the council say, look, guys, we're not going to mow the roundabouts and plant the daffodils this year and do various things, and we just all have to be realistic about it? Why the need for such an increase?
And also, we were talking about the NHS and spending more money. Where does the money go? And it's the same with councils. I don't mind them hiring more people to do social work or more police officers or more people keeping our streets tidy. But if it's being spent on highly paid diversity officers and people like that...
Let me tell you something which I saw, and you've just reminded me. I was in Kent last week, and I saw volunteers picking up rubbish. Right? They were all women, it has to be said, right? And they were out. And I'm thinking, this is amazing, off the verges, from all the scumbags who throw stuff out their windows and whatever. Someone else goes and clears up after them. But I thought, great community spirit. That's absolutely fantastic. No expense involved in that. And then I saw in Surrey, people, what were they doing? There was people dressed in high visibility jackets as well. And I think they were clipping hedges and grass verges and that sort of thing. And I just thought, look, we don't have to have everything paid for. We can muster and help out ourselves as individuals.
That was David Cameron's big thing? Wasn't it one of the elections?
Do you know, if the council said we'll keep your council tax bill down if we could get an army of so many 100 or 1,000 volunteers, I'm sure loads of people had volunteered to do
Well, here's a waste of money. Hello to all my neighbours in what's now called West Northamptonshire.
Hello.
Previously known as South Northamptonshire.
OK, South Northamptonshire has now become West Northamptonshire.
It's not moved.
What? It's not moved, but they may be listening and watching us, you know.
Hey!
It's amazing, incredible.
Big up the South West Northamptonshire massive. But they've changed the name. So all the lorries, the bins, you know,
have to be repainted
they've all
and
been
rebranded.
repainted and rebranded. We've got new wheelie bins. We've still kept our old ones around the back.
Yeah.
We've got West Northamptonshire now. Meanwhile, we get the bill.
Yeah.
The council tax, which has gone up about 400 quid, and a letter to say if you now want your garden waste taken away, you'll have to pay £40. You know, you've got a wheelie bin for your cuttings and everything.
What, for a year or each time?
For the year. But still, on top of all you're paying, if you want your garden waste taken, it's another 40 quid. But, but I don't know. We might be East Northamptonshire in a couple of years' time.
David, let's talk about Shakespeare, shall we? This is on page 3 of the Mail. It always gets our viewers going.
No, it gets me going.
Big fans of Shakespeare, they are. Lines spoken in Yorkshire accents they're talking about.
Yes, there's a company which does Shakespeare in the regional accent of Yorkshire, but it didn't please one playgoer who walked out in protest when they had, as the headline says, much ado about nowt. And, you know, Romeo, Romeo, hey up, Romeo, wherefore art thou? It's a terrible Yorkshire accent, please don't complain.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
But yes, the theatre goer complained and said, I want my money back, but thankfully they said no, you can't.
Good.
So I think this is great. It brings Shakespeare to the masses if you hear it in regional accents. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, Shakespeare had a Midlands accent, which with flat vowels and more akin to. You know.
See, I get fed up of people slagging off regional accents. I think we'll all be incredibly boring if we spoke in this. We're all going to speak like what everybody speaks.
I mean, most people love a regional accent now. They're all the rage. Yeah.
They're all the rage.
But there are people who
It's people like me that get beaten up all the time for having...
No, I'm sitting mocked and impersonated during every commercial break here.
You do the same back to me.
So what was this?
Liz Kershaw. He's been saying it.
But Eamonn's an exception. Well, you know, as is Hugh Edwards Welsh, and how many Scottish news presenters are there? And I wrote to the BBC News and said, why is there nobody like me reading the news? So now they've got Clive Myrie. You're welcome, Clive.
I didn't even notice Clive had an accent.
Well, no, he's from Bolton, but he's really posh. He says grass. Yeah. Anyway, he's a tick to box. He's a northerner on the news. But generally speaking, you won't get a Liverpudlian reading the 10 o'clock news. You won't get a Brummie, a Bristolian, somebody from Norfolk, a Geordie.
Country.
You just won't get them. There's still that prejudice.
We'll miss those accents when they're gone. That's all. That's all. I
did the undertones on the radio the other day, and it was a joy. You
was
know,
it?
Just the 4 lads together, all talking so fast because they're all together. It was great, yeah.
Which gets us from the undertones to Tom Parker.
Gosh.
We're just saying the death of this lad. So sad, so young, 33 years of age, such a good-looking, talented lad, a father of 2 as well.
Well, it's heartbreaking. He's only been married to his wife 3 years. They've been together longer. They've got 2 small children. You know, she's saying he's lit up the room, he's the light of my life. Fancy facing the rest of your life now, at early 30s, without the person, the most important person.
Yeah.
It's so sad, but on another level, doing the job I've been doing for 30-odd years and knowing so many bands, I mean, think just the last few months, the number of band members that have died. Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones, last week from the Foo Fighters, Taylor, the drummer from the Foo Fighters, and they're like families as well. So
Sarah from Girls Aloud.
Yes, if one of them dies, it's because you spend more time with them actually than your family at home on the road, and you're so tightly knit and you're interdependent creatively and financially. It's really sad. I mean, and it's just really sad.
Liz, we've got to go because we stay with Health Matters. And David, I know when you come back, you're gonna have a word for people who are suffering badly from hay fever at the moment, as to why all of this is. In the meantime, we'll just bring you up to date with the news headlines with the time approaching 10 minutes to 8.
The Health Secretary has apologised to families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to maternity care and failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust over 2 decades. Sajid Javid admitted there had been basic oversights at every level of patient care after a damning report said 201 babies and 9 mothers could have survived if they'd received better care.
The Ukrainian president has been given a standing ovation, as you can see there, as he addressed the Australian Federal Parliament this morning. Later, President Zelensky will address the Dutch Parliament and Belgian lawmakers. He says Ukrainian forces are preparing for new Russian attacks in the east as Moscow suffers setbacks near Kyiv. The Foreign Secretary is to urge India to join allies in opposing Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Liz Truss is in New Delhi for talks with counterparts amid concerns the Indian Prime Minister is reluctant to publicly condemn the actions of Russia. We were just talking about it in the newspaper review, and it's hard to listen to, but the public's satisfaction with the NHS has fallen to its lowest level now, what, 25 years?
Yeah, that's right, 25 years, as both the waiting list and the waiting times continue to soar. However, it's also difficult to recruit and retain GPs, and NHS staff say that they are stressed and burned out. We're joined now by junior doctor, Dr. Ali Jaffe. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It is alarming to hear the state, the understandable state that our medical professionals are in. You posted a picture of yourself on a ward, extremely tearful. Just tell us a little bit about why you were upset, what your experiences were, and what the reaction's been to that post as well.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me here this morning. So I'm a junior doctor and I'm working on a surgical ward at the moment. And last week was the first time, I think, in 9 months on the job that it just all felt a bit too much and very overwhelming. It was midweek and I had the longest patient list I'd had. And my baseline was already a little bit lower. Physically, I wasn't feeling 100%, but I didn't want to let my team down because of how long the patient list was if I were to go off ill that day. And there were just a lot of different conflicts that do happen day to day. And, on the receiving end of a bit of shouting, I feel I was under pressure as well. So I remember feeling I was scared about making a mistake and I was worried about how much I was balancing. And so that just reached a stage where I just found it all a bit much and I had my first cry on the job. And I just decided in that moment, after reflecting on it, that I wanted to share it with other healthcare professionals and people aspiring to be in the healthcare profession because...
Dr. Jaffe,
yes.
I totally get that. But what we want to do is put this right. What you want to do is put this right. I have no idea whether reducing your patient list by recruiting more colleagues around you, by paying you more, I have no idea what would make a difference. What would, if anything, make a difference?
Yeah, so on that day, I think it would have been better if we had all kind of had training around how to keep communication really solid, even under pressure. And I think that's something you just trial and error when you're on the job. You don't really know how best to work in a team, especially a team that's really under pressure. You're just kind of trialing and erroring it. And in terms of, you're never going to have less patients and we want to be able to serve the population as great as possible. But I think it's about having as cohesive and supportive of a team. And I think that's more of a culture change that should start in medical school and onwards, talking about how it's okay to say you're struggling, it's okay to communicate with your seniors that you're finding it a bit challenging, can I go take a 5-minute break? Because at the moment the culture is just carry on until you kind of break down, which is something that I'm really passionate about being proactive about and changing the dialogue slightly.
And of course, look, if Eamonn and I have a bad day, so what? If we make a mistake on air, it's embarrassing, but we'll get over it. If you make a mistake, if you have a
the
bad
stakes
day,
are high.
you've got a huge responsibility not only to your patients but to their families as well. And people trust. We only have to look at what's happening on the front of every newspaper this morning. All these mothers going in, trusting the NHS and being let down. Huge responsibility on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
Do you worry about the state of the NHS, the future of the NHS, and does it frustrate you? So many doctors tell us it frustrates them that it's left in the hands of politicians who always naturally are in an electoral cycle thinking about getting re-elected.
I think as an individual and speaking to my colleagues as well, it is worrying, you know, what the future of the NHS holds, especially because we're seeing such a high demand post-COVID, and also we're in a mental health crisis as well, and that's an area I'm very passionate about, with services largely underfunded and wait lists to see, you know, therapists, psychiatrists going down to next year. So I am worried about the state of the NHS, but at the moment all we can do is carry on and try and make change where we can. So for instance, having conversations, showing that it's okay to struggle and to talk openly about your colleagues and candidly, even with your patients sometimes, I think can really help give more compassion to the profession and make people understand.
Thanks for outlining it, Dr. Jaffe. And as Isabel says, there's lots of places where we can take a hit and people's stamina and whatever can wane, but not in your profession. And I say that today because I have a very close friend who's undergoing a massive operation today, which Isabel knows about. And, you know, you can only hope, pray and trust that the team are on top form, and it is so important that people like you and your colleagues are on top form. So thank you for
Absolutely.
I hope things change.
Yes, likewise. And I think it's just so important to show that vulnerability can be strength. When I posted that photo, I really wanted to show aspiring medical students and current doctors that it is okay to talk about your struggle.
But it's not always about funding, it's not always about more money.
It's just about greater understanding and compassion, that there is a person behind the profession.
Yes.
We're also human.
You're not a machine.
And also, exactly, we're not machines. Absolutely.
Although it won't be long before they have machines do it. That's
well,
true.
I hope.
You look at surgery, they will have robots.
Yeah, robotic surgery. Absolutely.
But look, there you are. We're full of respect for you doing what you do. There's a woman that does a real job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And what we don't want to see is people like Dr. Ali deciding it's too much to stay in, that we want them to stick it, and we don't want a brain
It's the most wonderful profession to be a part of. There are culture changes and, as you've said, resource changes that need to happen.
Okay.
Dr. Ali Jaffe, thank you.
Thank you, babe.
Fortunately, health very much dominating the news today, because after the break we're going to have more on the worst maternity scandal in British history. Let's have a look at the weather.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. It might be the first day of April tomorrow, but today starts off freezing cold with a mixture of frost, ice and in some places lying snow. Cold winds have arrived all the way from the Arctic, and they'll continue to blow through the rest of the day. Now, those cold winds have brought snow to places. Watch out for some icy patches first thing. And there'll be further wintry showers during the rest of the day, especially in the east and the north, so a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. Away from the showers, however, there will be some sunny spells. It's a bright enough day, but it's going to feel much colder than it has felt for some time, with a biting northeasterly wind, particularly around the southeast coast, and temperatures struggling to get to 5, 6, 7 Celsius in the east, 8 or 9 in the west. Knock a few degrees off for the wind chill, of course, and through the evening, clearing skies will lead to, once again, plummeting temperatures. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in the north, there's a good chance of seeing the aurora this evening, so look out for that. But away from the clear skies in the north, there'll be further showers coming into the east at times. Again, a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. So some ice perhaps in places, and a widespread frost to start off tomorrow morning. Plenty of sunshine, mind you, as we start off the day. And despite the cold start, it's going to be, for many, less windy. It's also going to be bright and dry for many. There'll be a few more showers coming into central and eastern parts of the country. Mixture of rain and sleet, I think, and some rain or sleet showers into the west of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But away from these areas, for many, it's a dry and bright day. Temperatures reaching 7 to 9 Celsius, so recovering very slightly compared to today. And that very slow recovery in temperatures continues through the weekend. Showers for many on Saturday, dry for many away from the far north on Sunday, highs of 10 degrees.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The author of a report into Britain's worst scandal says childbirth is not safe for mothers in England.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st of March. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. Major changes to maternity services in England are expected in the wake of a damning report into failures at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust, which revealed catastrophic mismanagement.
Labour calls for the Prime Minister to resign over Partygate as Boris Johnson continues to insist the law was not broken over Downing Street parties. We'll find out what the future holds for him.
The Foreign Secretary Liz Truss will head to India today to urge Prime Minister Narendra Modi to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
It comes as President Zelensky's been given a standing ovation by members of the Australian Parliament as he says Ukrainian forces are preparing for a new Russian offensive in the east.
Listen, join in the discussions if you wish. If you've anything to contribute, anything constructive, please do get in touch with us. gbviews at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet at gbnews. So medical matters dominating our programme today, and our top stories. The author into a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal has warned childbirth is still not safe within the recommendations of a report if they are not adopted.
Yes, so failings over a 20-year period at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust have led to the deaths of 201 children and left many others severely brain damaged.
The report also found that the Trust wasn't held to account by external bodies. Healthcare expert Donna Ockenden, who authored it all, said it was astounding that systemic failings had continued for so long.
Well, in the House of Commons, the Health Secretary Sajid Javid apologised to families affected.
To all the families that have suffered so greatly, I am sorry. The report clearly shows that you were failed by a service that was there to help you and your loved ones to bring life into this world. We will make the changes that the report says are needed at both a local and national level.
So that was the Health Secretary yesterday. The Trust has also apologised, adding that it's already made changes and will make more in the future.
Earlier on, we spoke to Julie Rawlings. She lost her daughter Olivia in part of this awful tragedy, and how errors initially began to unfold as she told us about it.
We were being told one thing and then they were doing another. They put in my notes that they'd given me Syntocin. There was never another bag put up. The only bag it was up was because I'd had the epidurals.
To relax, is it?
Just a lot of different things that day weren't sitting right with us. But we didn't. We just went with what they said. We thought that was how it was done, and it wasn't till after that we realised. No.
Yeah. It's so awful, as Isabel said, you know, for you to have to recount all of this again. With the publishing of the report yesterday, is there any satisfaction at all that you get, or is it all just continually too painful for you?
It's a mixture, a roller coaster of emotions to do with the report, because it's bittersweet. The outcome of the report is incredible. It's incredible for a lot of families, like us as well. But we, unfortunately, to get to where we are, families like ourselves have had to relive this pain. And I feel that until we're provided evidence that the changes are being implemented on a regular basis, the changes stipulated within the Ockenden report, we can see that they've been taken on board and being actioned with immediate effect. This can't wait. This has to be implemented. Until then, I don't know how we move forward.
20 years ago, Julie Rawlings there lost her daughter Olivia on delivery, and we're now joined by a recently retired midwife, Nagme Temurian Yates, who delivered 5,500 babies, she was telling us earlier on the programme today. And Nagme, we have been talking about these. You've heard these awful stories throughout the programme this morning. And look, we've got people getting in touch with GB Views today. Neil saying the NHS has been chronically understaffed for 40 years with completely inept manpower, planning by successive governments, worsened by a massive population increase. Is it as simple as that? You're there at the sharp end. We're talking about a childbirth scandal, which is never straightforward, of course, giving birth to a child. What would you say? Is there, when we look at this report, is there an easy fix to this?
And it's not an easy fix to this, because our main problem in the NHS is a massive employer, and they haven't got enough funds. If they had funds, literally they can staff and they can buy equipments and, etc. So the main problem is funding, because if there was funding, then people would become midwives, people would become doctors, and you are well staffed. So mainly I would say is the funding, but which it causes massive shortages of staff. But obviously the recommendations and the learnings from the scenarios are that it was staff, the workforce were inadequate with their trainings. Their record keeping was poor. They had records written on post-it notes, which it was then found on the floors in the corridors and swept by the cleaners. These are legal documents that they've got to be kept for 25 years, secured. The communication. I mean, these are just basic. You don't need funding.
But why did they get it wrong here and they get it right in so many other places? My memory from childbirths over 4 children was that professionals, midwives, very calm in a very stressful situation, because the mother's stressed out, the father's stressed out, anybody else in the room very, very nervous about what's to happen. And you rely on the calmness and the professionalism and the judgment of the midwife and the delivery staff.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do hear horror stories all the time,
yeah.
don't you? And, I just want to raise, it was on the front of The Guardian this morning, but it was mentioned as part of Donna Ockenden's report yesterday that West Mercia police are investigating currently 600 possible incidents up there. Now, I want to ask you, in your experience of 5,500 deliveries, did you ever witness unsafe conditions? And, how widespread is this problem in your professional opinion?
I have got to be very honest and say that I have been blessed. Apart from literally, I can count it on the fingers of my two hands, with the number of years that I've been there.
Which is what, 40 years?
42 years. I did my nursing and then my midwifery. I have always, if I look after the lady, I kept them safe. And if I was in charge, because I'm usually in charge of the department, I make sure that everything is safe and every practice is safe and communication is delivered correctly. But yes, I have seen, yes.
Well, that's reassuring. That will give some hope to people who are pregnant and reading this morning and extremely concerned that they're hearing that women are not safe until these recommendations are implemented, that there are midwives like you.
But we have to, as you said, I'm not saying this is an isolated case, as we discussed earlier, but we as professionals have got to try to put everything in practice, to learn from these situations, and also to reassure the public and to empower them with choice and to communicate with us, because communication was bad.
As a professional, do you ever take for granted, I mean, we take you guys for granted, midwives, but do you ever take for granted bringing new life into the world?
Never.
What does that feel like?
Never. It feels... I've got to say it feels scary because it's people's lives. Whenever, every shift I sat in the car to drive to work, I always prayed. And I prayed not to make any errors and to keep people safe, because that's what I'm there for. And that's what I always say to the women. When they are frightened, when they are vulnerable, they are at their lowest ebb, I always say to them, we are keeping you safe. Because that is a very fearful...
What I wouldn't want, we've got people like Nagme here, and if you are a mother or a father, an expectant mother, any day, any moment, today maybe, heading to a maternity ward, you must be nervous. How must you be feeling today, thinking we've got the Mercia thing, we've got the Shrewsbury and Telford situation, and we've got the author of this report saying, in England, if you are going to give birth in a maternity ward, an NHS maternity ward, she cannot guarantee that it's all going to turn out well.
And one wonders if the Health Secretary needs to say there needs to be an investigation into an overview, a report into all maternity services in this country. I was reading something, shocking statistic, 1 in 4 maternity services are rated as being poor. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
4 out of 10 maternity
it is 4 out of 10.
Inadequate in this country.
Yeah.
But if that was care homes, if that was schools, if that was, think of what you want, we'd be saying scandal, absolutely not. And yet this involves life.
2 lives.
Yeah,
sometimes
2 lives,
2 or 3 lives.
Yes.
When we've got multiple pregnancies. And also, it's not just the life of a baby loss or a maternal loss, it's the whole impact on the larger family and larger community. Because this has now shaken England. So it's not just a loss of a lady or a baby, is the massive impact, is the repercussions of it.
Nagme Chamoria Yates, she is a recently retired midwife. Your profession will miss you. I hope they get your experience in some way over the next few years. Thank you very much. Fascinating listening to you this morning.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me.
No, pleasure.
Thank you.
And let's bring you up to date with what's happening news-wise. And as you've heard there, the Health Secretary has apologised to families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to that maternity care failing at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital over 2 decades. West Mercia Police say its own investigation is ongoing. Detectives are looking into approximately 600 cases.
The Ukrainian president has been given a standing ovation as he addressed the Australian federal parliament this morning. President Zelensky says Ukrainian forces are preparing for new Russian attacks in the east as Moscow suffers setbacks near Kyiv.
Foreign Secretary is in India and planning there to join allies in opposing Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Liz Truss is in New Delhi. She's in talks with counterparts amid concerns the Indian Prime Minister is reluctant to publicly condemn the actions of Russia.
Prince Andrew may appear at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee weekend after escorting his mother to the Duke of Edinburgh's memorial service. It comes after the Duke of York settled a civil sexual assault case with Virginia Giuffre.
Well, it's just been over 2 years since the Duke and Duchess of Sussex left the royal family to live in America, a move that shocked people worldwide.
The couple did not attend Prince Philip's memorial this week. And our newly appointed royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, joins us in the studio to tell us more about this. Goodness me, 2 years have absolutely flown by, haven't they? I was working the day this story broke and we rolled on it for 4 hours. It was absolutely huge. It came out of nowhere. Just give us a reminder of exactly what the reasons were that the Sussexes decided that they were done with the royal family.
Well, like you said, it's been 2 years and they decided to step back as working members of the royal family. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. They wanted financial independence. They wanted to pursue their own projects. And they also wanted to, pursue their own projects and do their own kind of charitable work and potentially become a bit more political. It wasn't necessarily their plan to move to the United States, although that happens. They wanted kind of half in, half out way of doing things. But after the so-called Sandringham Summit, that was the meeting between the Queen, Prince Charles, William and Prince Harry to kind of bash out the deal, it was decided that that was not going to be possible and they had to be fully out.
OK, and how did, I mean, you know, the shockwaves of that are still being felt, but it didn't end there, did it? I mean, it was one thing after another. They made this departure to the United States. They said they wanted more private life. And then they started courting big organisations like Netflix and the likes, and doing a sit-down with Oprah Winfrey, no less.
I know, that was a bombshell, wasn't it? I'm sure we'll come on to that. So, yes, they decided to be they got to be financially independent. They also had to pay back £2.4 million of our money, taxpayers' money, for Frogmore Cottage, which was going to be where they lived if they were in the UK. They've secured multi-million-pound deals with both Netflix and Spotify. The Spotify deal is worth around £18 million. But so far, they've only released one holiday special, and that was back in December 2020. Some have speculated this is because the couple had raised concerns about potential coronavirus misinformation on the platform. But last week, Meghan did unveil that she's going to do a new podcast series about female empowerment. Prince Harry's also been hired as a chief impact officer for a firm called Better Up, which is a kind of coaches mental health company for company employees. And they've also established a charitable organisation and bought an £11 million mansion in Montecito, California. So I don't think they're short of cash somehow.
And isn't there this book that we're expecting at some point from Prince Harry, which is why there's lots of concern about what he's going to say in that?
Yes, in the autumn we are expecting a book. It could potentially completely overshadow the Platinum Jubilee celebrations of Her Majesty the Queen. And if the Oprah interview is anything to go by, which happened just over a year ago now, it was, of course, a complete bombshell where Meghan accused an unnamed member of the royal family of racism, questioning what colour their son Archie's skin might be when he was born. It forced the palace to release a statement where they said recollections may vary, i.e. there's two sides to every story. And they also, Meghan also said that there was a lack of sympathy for her mental health struggles. Yeah. Obviously, this is Prince Harry rather than Meghan, this book, this autobiography we're expecting, but I think it's going to be ruffling a few feathers in the royal house.
No, what we weren't expecting is Prince Andrew to turn up at the Jubilee celebrations, and we're hearing now reports today that that could well be the case. And this was mission creep, we were saying, with the Prince Philip Memorial this week. There he was in the arm of the Queen. How do you see this playing out?
I think it was a really tricky one for the Queen. On the one hand, she is a mother, and this was a family occasion, and she wanted all her family to be there and support her.
So the same rules applying, the same thinking applying for the Platinum Jubilee commemorations and celebrations then?
Well, potentially. We don't have any official confirmation, of course, but if the Queen was prepared to have Prince Andrew kind of at her side, literally in front of millions of people as they watch Prince Philip's memorial, it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing him at perhaps the service of Thanksgiving for the Queen at St Paul's Cathedral, plans for the Jubilee weekend, perhaps the Epsom Derby or Ascot, things like that. I don't think we would see him at the big state occasions because he has stepped back as a senior member of the royal family. So Trooping of the Colour, for example, I don't think we'll see him in a carriage with the rest of the senior members of the royal family. But I think he will make some sort of appearance.
Okay, and thank you for your appearance
no worries,
today.
Eamonn.
Cameron Walker is our newly installed GB News Royal reporter, so a busy year for you ahead, and thank you for your debut. This is inauguration.
Yeah, it
today,
is.
Really.
His coronation.
Coronation.
There you go.
That's it.
Look, stay with us after the break. We're talking about this worrying trend at the moment. Another child has been killed in a dog attack. We're going to be asking why they seem to be on the rise. That's after your Thursday forecast.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. It might be the first day of April tomorrow, but today starts off freezing cold with a mixture of frost, ice, and in some places lying snow. Cold winds have arrived all the way from the Arctic, and they'll continue to blow through the rest of the day. Now, those cold winds have brought snow to places. Watch out for some icy patches first thing, and there'll be further wintry showers during the rest of the day, especially in the east and the north, so a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. Away from the showers, however, there will be some sunny spells. It's a bright enough day, but it's going to feel much colder than it has felt for some time, with a biting northeasterly wind, particularly around the southeast coast, and temperatures struggling to get to 5, 6, 7 Celsius in the east, 8 or 9 in the west. Knock a few degrees off for the wind chill, of course, and through the evening, clearing skies will lead to, once again, plummeting temperatures. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in the north, there's a good chance of seeing the aurora this evening, so look out for that. But away from the clear skies in the north, there'll be further showers coming into the east at times. Again, a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. So some ice perhaps in places, and a widespread frost to start off tomorrow morning. Plenty of sunshine, mind you, as we start off the day. And despite the cold start, it's going to be, for many, less windy. It's also going to be bright and dry for many. There'll be a few more showers coming into central and eastern parts of the country. Mixture of rain and sleet, I think, and some rain or sleet showers into the west of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But away from these areas, for many, it's a dry and bright day. Temperatures reaching 7 to 9 Celsius, so recovering very slightly compared to today. And that very slow recovery in temperatures continues through the weekend. Showers for many on Saturday, dry for many away from the far north on Sunday, highs of 10 degrees.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. news is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
24 minutes past 8. Hello, good morning to you. Eamonn and Isabel here at breakfast.
Still to come this morning, she is the former Brookside star turned cabaret queen. We've got the actress Claire Sweeney joining us, telling us why she's pushing herself out of her comfort zone. That's at 8:45.
And then just after 9 o'clock this morning, we'll be reminding you of some of his top tunes. Paul Young here ahead of his UK. And, you know, he's coming in here and anywhere he lays his hat, that's his home. Remember that?
You can start singing to me.
Well, I remember Paul Young from the early 80s, and you were just born then, weren't you? And he was the big thing.
Yeah.
He was the big pretty boy, the big pin-up. I mean, there was him and there was me. And really, that was sort of it.
How old were you in the early 80s?
I would have
45?
been 20. You could have hurt me there. You could have hurt
It's
me.
just revenge.
I may have
Revenge
to
is sweet.
I think I'm going to have to see a psychological counsellor after that. I'm now harmed. So we're going to talk about dog attacks. You know, in the last few weeks, we've heard about a number of these on children. One child died, 17-month-old Bella Ray Birch from St Helens. She lost her life last Tuesday. And yesterday, a 2-year-old boy died after being bitten by a dog on Worcestershire.
Yeah, so what is behind these dog attacks? Let's speak to a dog behaviourist, Anna Webb. Very good morning to you, Anna. Just first of all, tell us, you know, it's hard to know sometimes with the reporting of these things. You know, when we talk about a big knife incident, suddenly all we talk about is knife crime. If we talk about something else, suddenly that's all we hear about. Is this particularly rare and unusual to have 2 children dying in dog attacks of this nature?
Well, I mean, this is really, really tragic. And, you know, it is strange that 2 have happened in just a week. You know, the problem I feel at the moment is that there's a lack of understanding about dogs around children. And the fact that we tend to treat dogs as little people when in fact they are dogs. And they have instincts and reactions to certain stimuli. To label certain dogs as being more aggressive or reactive to others under the breed-specific legislation has really been proved to be outdated and wrong by science. So, you know, what's always interesting in these cases is this kind of witch hunt to find out if it was a particular type of dog and label and be judgmental. Whereas I do understand that the dogs in this latest tragedy case were not indeed deemed to be on the dangerous dogs list.
This, as far as I'm aware, include American Pit Bull Terriers, Japanese Tosers, Dogo Argentinos and Fila Brasileiros, which were all banned 30 years ago by the Home Secretary after a spate of fatal dog attacks. But lots of people, like you are saying, are arguing there's no such thing as a dangerous breed, that, you know, dogs are individuals just like humans. Is that fair, or are some more likely to bite you than others?
No, as I just mentioned, you know, science has actually proved that your typical family dogs, like, say, a golden retriever or a Labrador, are just as likely as to bite you as a Jack Russell Terrier, you know, or a Pomeranian. So what it all boils down to with dogs is their individuality, as you say, but also down to their breeding and their early socialisation. So we learnt in the case last week that this dog had only been in the home for a week. and nobody really knew it was an adult dog, and nobody knew what its previous experience or owner, who they were or what the experience had been for the dog. Now, boundaries are very important for dogs, and I think people need to understand why dogs need boundaries, why they respect boundaries, particularly around children. When a child runs away from a dog, for example, it can ignite a dog's innate prey drive, just like you might see a Jack Russell chasing after a cat. I'm not comparing toddlers to cats in any shape or form, but it is this instinct that dogs can suddenly, dive into, which needs to be managed with strict boundaries. A lot of training, early socialization, and ongoing socialization for dogs through their lives, because just like us, they change and develop with environmental stimuli that happen.
What happens, Anna, with a dog around a child? Is there anything that kicks in terms of it being threatened or it wanting to protect? Because in these two cases with two young children, and we hear it so many times before, something must change as regards the dog's awareness.
Well, this is it. Now, dogs give us loads of signals before they bite. Dogs aren't born thinking, gosh, I must bite everyone around me. Not at all. They do have, yes, their space. We don't know the context in which this happened. And so much of these cases are related to context. The dog may have had a bone in its bed and the child may have approached the bed. Dogs and bones, resources, they can get protected, whether it's with another dog or an adult or a toddler. Now, of course, children are more vulnerable in all of these cases because children also need to know how to respect a dog's space. So again, this comes down to management and responsibility.
I thought that it was impossible to adopt a dog, an adult dog, if you have children in a household under the age of 7. I might be misled in that, but I don't understand how in this case last week they were able to adopt an adult dog when they had little ones around.
Well, in the case last week, I don't think the dog was adopted as such. I think it was probably purchased, You're absolutely right. Rescues are very diligent, They say, in fact, it's very hard to adopt a dog. Even if you own a cat, it's very hard to adopt a dog in a way, for many similar reasons. So, this is... very important. I always say adopt, don't shop, because you are then given a behavioural assessment of the dog that you're bringing into your home, and you have a strong reliability that this dog will be sound in the environment that you're bringing it into. The reasons children can trigger reactions is high-pitched noises, waving of arms, running away, giving the dog unnecessary eye contact at certain moments. People really underestimate how eye contact can trigger situations, can reward behaviour that you don't actually want in certain situations.
Anna, we've got to leave it there. Anna Webb is a dog behaviourist, and thank you very much indeed for your analysis after those recent dog attacks. Thank you. Anna's right there with the adopt. Thank you. The adopt, don't shop thing, if you can. There's so many dogs need homes, and I'm so blessed our dog is a adopted dog, a rescue dog. But in 12 years, she's never snarled, snapped, bitten. I mean, I do think there has to be something with temperament as well.
Just this weekend gone, we were in a coffee shop and my littlest, 4 years old, went to stroke a little dog next to the dog, tried to bite her. And in the context of the news, I was absolutely, all over my daughter. She went back for more. My daughter wanted to stroke the dog again. As a parent, I think these stories really do make you think twice about encouraging your child to pet dogs. Always ask the owner.
Come and pet our Maggie.
Oh, yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
My wife's more dangerous than the dog. I wouldn't pet her. If you pet her, she'd probably bite.
I doubt Poppy would be trying to pet Ruthie, but who knows, maybe.
Please do stay with us. We've got the newspapers after the break. GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 8:34. The headlines. The Health Secretary has apologised to the families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to maternity care failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust over a 2-decade period. West Mercia Police say its own investigation is ongoing. Detectives there are looking at 600 current cases.
The Ukrainian president has been given a standing ovation as he addressed the Australian Federal Parliament this morning. President Zelensky says Ukrainian forces are preparing for new Russian attacks in the east as Moscow suffers setbacks near Kyiv.
The Foreign Secretary is to urge India to join allies in opposing Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Liz Truss is in New Delhi for talks with her counterparts amid concerns the Indian Prime Minister is reluctant to publicly condemn the actions of Russia.
A royal source has claimed that Prince Andrew's appearance at events celebrating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee have not been ruled out. It comes after he escorted his mother to the Duke of Edinburgh's memorial service this week. We stay on the subject of the Queen as we go through the newspapers now with David Wooding and Liz Kershaw. And Liz, the Queen, a more rare public appearance now. And in the future, when this is I think it's the state opening of Parliament this is referring to in the Mail, what's the plan?
Well, who could not have been moved by the pictures of the Queen this week? We've seen some very frail pictures of her, and everybody was very worried about her even making it a few steps from the side entrance of Westminster Abbey rather than processing up the main aisle to her seat. And what a sigh of relief. And she stood for hymns, and then she walked unsupported back out again. But then the question was, what's she going to do for the annual state opening of Parliament, which is gruelling, not least because of the heavy crown. It weighs a ton, you know, on a 95-year-old neck bent back. Anyway, good. Who'd have thought of this? She maybe will be able to open Parliament by video link, so on Zoom, as the president of Ukraine recently addressed the House of Parliament.
And is doing so today to other parliaments.
She's only 23 miles away at Windsor. She's been conducting her business in that way for 2 years. So, don't drag her out of her parlour. Let her keep warm. Let her sit. She does the Queen's speech every year. I mean, even let her pre-record it. You know, it's an onerous task to do that. And I think that's great. It'd be a shame if she couldn't do it, wouldn't it, in her Jubilee?
Yeah, has she not? I mean, has she always done it? I have a feeling Prince Charles has done one recently, or am I imagining
No, she always does
it.
But she was escorted by Prince Charles.
Right.
In Edinburgh when he was ill. It's a good idea. You know, MPs have been doing debates by Zoom during the COVID crisis. What would be interesting to see whether it's necessary for the MPs to leave the House of Commons with black rod and be summoned to the Lords to listen to the Queen's speech, when in fact she won't be there, when they can sit and watch it by Zoom in the Commons chamber. So it would be interesting to see how they do that constitutionally.
The weather has got more favourable in the past couple of weeks, but with it, hay fever, David.
It's got a bit rubbish again.
Well, I can't see outside.
It's 2 degrees. It's freezing this morning, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, the Daily Star's got a story here, which is a gloomy news for the 16 million hay fever sufferers in Britain, which is that the big sneeze will continue all year round. It's going to start very soon, and it will go on right through to the winter. Now, this is because apparently we have a lot more birch trees, which cause pollen. Most of it's from grass, but birch trees. The growth in the birch trees, which do produce more pollen.
Well, there is a lot of birch trees around where I live, and the pollen blows. It covers your car. It fills up your guttering. It is incessant, certainly for a few weeks.
Anyone here suffer hay fever?
I grew out of it.
Oh, right.
I did as well, Liz. I had it when I was in the north. And then when I moved south, it went. Now, I wonder whether where I live...
There's no trees down here.
Trees, maybe.
But people do grow out of it.
Or grow into it. Some people don't have it and suddenly get it.
It's terrible as a child. But,
I have 4 other brothers, and they are completely debilitated by it.
Awful.
And I just count myself really lucky. Why does this not affect me? Though I hear you can develop it at any age or stage in your life.
Well, there is help at hand if you turn to page 23 of the Daily Mail, because Dyson, the king of the vacuum cleaner,
the bagless vacuum
cleaner, has developed some kind of bizarre headphones which come with a filtration mask, and it filters out 99% of impurities in the air. Now, this isn't going to be a thing you can use against COVID because it doesn't stop your own breath coming out. But you have these headphones on, and they've got whirring fans inside, and it brings in the air and then filters it round the front of your mouth.
So the headphones are part of the filter. They're not there so that you can combine your phone calls with your cleaning.
No, but they are noise reduction headphones. So you can sit on your train, inhaling clear, pure air, and not having the noise of noisy passengers around you. So
there they are.
But they do look a bit odd. So
but I'd rather look a bit odd than breathe in some of the fumes that you've forced to suffer in London.
If you're keen to buy a set of these, though, they're not going to be available till the autumn, and we don't yet know how much they're going to cost.
They'll be 500 quid.
They will be.
Dyson hair straighteners are 500 quid.
This is the starting point for anything Dyson. OK, let's turn our attention, Liz, to the Beckhams' mansion. A masked burglar raided their house worth 40 million in West London whilst they were there.
Yeah, it's astounding because it does say in the article, so you think, have they not got a burglar alarm? And they've apparently got all security, security measures that you can have. And this guy apparently shinned up a drain pipe, smashed a bedroom window, dived in, took a few valuables, bijou valuables, nothing of sentimental value were assured, and nipped out. And there were 2 other break-ins in the area the same night, and they said it was, they couldn't... He wore a mask. So I was thinking, well, that would have been something extraordinary 3 years ago. Maybe it was just COVID safe.
Yeah. Maybe he thought the Beckhams might be infected.
But they're now looking into the security arrangements.
Well, the first floor is the big vulnerable area of a house because the robbers assume that the bottom floor is alarmed.
Right.
The first floor where people sleep will not be alarmed. It's less likely to be. So that's where they enter a house mostly from.
Well, one of my relatives was married to a guy, and we used to laugh at him, but maybe he's got the solution.
Which is?
Well, first of all, he made sure he locked the bedroom door from the inside, but he used to put shoes or tin cans on every door handle downstairs before he went to bed, and upstairs, actually. So he was like, what are you doing? And so if a burglar came in and did that to the lounge door, there'd be a big clatter and wake him up. He could run down with his
With his
baseball bat. It's scary though. They're so, you know, the daring, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you have a masked man breaking through a first floor bedroom window, you don't know what their intentions are.
No,
you almost think that burglary's a blessing when you think of the list of things they might have been coming for.
They could have done, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a whole time actually when they were worried about their children being taken
Right. There was a story
hostage.
some years ago about
Was it Harpo?
and there were stories that newspapers didn't print at the time, some of the information we had, because it was so threatening to the security of their children.
Because a really common one is people breaking in. I always think, oh, should I have my car keys? Because people break in, don't they? See a car and they break in just to steal the keys. And
they don't break in to steal keys anymore. They just clone them from the outside. And you should have a lead box, which are easily obtainable, and you put your car keys, your bleepers all inside there. You do.
I'm laughing.
I am a security expert.
Do you put your key? Do you have a lead box?
Yes. Absolutely
I know.
Yeah, they turn up outside and they have these backpacks, and my mate had a video of this happening at night, and they come up to your car and they scan and they try and clone the key from inside the house, and the car will open. He phoned the police. The police arrived and they said, well, we couldn't really charge them with anything anyway because they didn't do anything. He said, what do you mean they didn't do anything? They were in my driveway, they were scanning the car, whatever, but they didn't break into the car.
Eamonn, I won't sleep tonight.
No,
It's true. I mean, this is the end thing.
There's certain brands that are particularly vulnerable.
Range
which we
Rover.
won't say on air. Oh, we will.
No, it's all printed out there.
What about a 1992 Honda?
Nobody's interested. Your catalytic converter, they'll steal that from you. They'll do that. But I think also you raised a point there. Everybody should have their internal doors, locks on your internal doors, so that if somebody does break into your house, they won't progress beyond that particular room.
Right.
Yeah.
Except if you're in that room that they come into, you can't get out quickly. This is how my brain thinks.
No. Set up a firm and call it Holmes Security.
Could be that. Let's talk about the BBC. And you know, Liz, you will have lived through these drives before. I know I have. I don't know if I've benefited from it or not. BBC to hire more working class people. Does that mean people like us with accents, or what does that mean?
Well, yeah, things have changed in 35 years since I got on Radio 1, but, you know, I remember The Sun, David, before your time, really hurtful, ran an article saying, what's this woman doing on the BBC? She needs subtitles, you know. And now, on-air things have changed so much, you've positively got to have a strong accent. You can't be... so me, having thought, right, I'm going to spend money on private schools for my boys so they don't have to contend with this in their lives. They're now too posh, you know, too cut glass, they wouldn't get on. Maybe on GBNews, got posh...
Well, you see,
sorry, go on.
News particular, through ITV, Sky, BBC, whatever, is dominated by posh people, right? All of it. And all they do now when they talk about diversity, it's not true diversity, they now hire diverse posh people.
June Sarpong,
to replace...
BBC, 185 grand a year for, you know, 1 day a week. She's very posh, and she's now getting rid of people.
Excuse me, I'm going to raise my hand. This is prejudice against posh people.
Well, it is.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can be too posh now. So I always thought that...
Yeah, but diversity means giving people from all backgrounds a chance at something.
Yes.
And if you're working class, you're excluded, particularly in news, from getting a job, no matter if you're good enough.
As I said earlier, you can be a DJ, or you can be a comedian, or whatever, panellists on the radio, but if you want to read the news, it's a different matter. And management as well, you know, very much Oxbridge. And, you know, it's been like that. But we were, interestingly, David and I were comparing notes backstage about, he's like, how did you get on the radio? I thought, you cheeky devil. Anyway, I told him my story, and it was because I was a bit of a novelty item in Leeds. You know, the guy, I went into Radio Leeds to sell him some BT telephone equipment, and he said, oh, you're a very lively gal. And he said, I'm going to give you a voice test. And I thought, I'll never pass this. But I did, because, you know, we're local, sounded local to him. I wasn't. But David got rejected, didn't you? Because, you know, you were a graduate or something.
No, I got turned down for an evening paper because...
No, BBC Radio Merseyside.
Well, I got turned down by papers for not being a graduate trainee. But then when I tried to get on local radio, 3 or 4 stations turned me down because of my Liverpool accent.
Yeah, I always laugh how they take the highest qualified people, Oxbridge, to read the news. Reading the news is the easiest job anybody will ever do, right?
Yeah.
And here's why you need an Oxford or Cambridge degree. Let's now go to our reporter Liz Kershaw. Liz, what's the latest?
Yeah.
And you need an Oxford or Cambridge degree to do that.
No, you don't, dear.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. You know, I said, when we were on Sky Papers with you, I think I said it. You know, anybody who comments on anything to do with politics across the country, their opening remark should be a statement of when they last ventured outside the M25.
Okay.
Because people sit there and pontificate about, you know, they make statements.
Westminster World.
Make statements from the Westminster bubble about what people in Wigan think or how people in, you know, Halifax are suffering. I'm thinking, well, have you been and looked? Is that proper journalism, or is this just something you
They
make
always go out when the budget happens. They always go and say, we sent our reporter way up north to Halifax to find out what those people are doing, how they're spending them. But it's true.
I'll tell you what else
they never
do.
go to Halifax any other time,
They'll have a, you know, ITN political correspondent or BBC's, you know, economics correspondent, and then they'll have our northern reporter. Like, being in the north, it's just about being northern. There's no economics or politics. It's none. Anyway, next week, we're in the north, aren't we?
We're in the north. We're in Manchester.
Yeah,
we're going to be in Manchester, and where our biggest pickup in ratings happens to be in terms of listeners and viewers as well. So join the revolution. Join the revolution. That's where we're going to be in Manchester all next week, broadcasting The Breakfast Show, Isabel and myself.
Yeah, Liz Kershaw, David Wooding, thank you both very much for joining us. And we'll see you, Liz, next week. David, we'll see you the week after.
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much.
If you haven't got a job in the BBC by then.
Well, you know, what do you call me now? Veteran.
Oh, come on.
But I have helped to change things because, you know, from being ridiculed in the Sun, I'm just common now. Just, you know, everybody talks like me now.
OK, on that note, we're going to take a look at the headlines this morning. And the Health Secretary has apologised to families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to maternity care failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust over 2 decades. West Mercia Police say its own investigation is ongoing. Detectives are looking into approximately 600 cases.
The Ukrainian president has been given a standing ovation as he addressed the Australian Federal Parliament this morning. President Zelensky says Ukrainian forces are preparing for new Russian attacks in the east as Moscow suffers setbacks near Kyiv.
The Foreign Secretary is to urge India to join allies in opposing Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Liz Truss is in New Delhi for talks with counterparts amid concerns the Indian Prime Minister's reluctant to publicly condemn the actions of Putin.
Royal sources claim that Prince Andrew's appearance at events celebrating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee has not been ruled out. It comes after he escorted his mother to the Duke of Edinburgh's memorial service this week. Well, as the song says, life is a cabaret, old chum.
Well, they do say that, and it certainly is. For our next guest, it's the actress and singer Claire Sweeney, who is joining the cast of Cabaret All-Stars when it kicks off at Proud Embankment in London on Sunday. And I'm pleased to say she's here in the studio with us. A very warm welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Lovely to know it's worth getting up just to hear that done in your dulcet tones, old chum.
Yeah, old chum,
that,
old chum.
Cabaret.
Old chum. So do the cabaret stars get bigger than you? I mean, who are our cabaret stars?
Oh, so we've got a great cast in the show. It basically, Eamonn, it's a burlesque cabaret show. So lots of people doing speciality acts. I mean, they're even going to set fire to me.
To you?
On stage, yeah, to certain parts of my body, yeah. I'm singing the song, The Doors.
What do you
song
mean
like
to certain parts of your body?
Okay.
So are you turning up in your underwear or something for
No,
this?
no, I'm not in my underwear.
No nipple tassels for you.
No nipple tassels for me, no, I'm fully dressed. Got beautiful costumes. I'm singing the song Like My Fire. They're going to have a fire eater as I'm singing it, and then they attach things to my body and set fire to me, so it's bit different to 9 to 5, dear.
just don't try that at home.
No, exactly.
There's Denise Van Outen.
They've had a
we're saying.
stellar cast there. They've had Bill Bailey, Julian Clary, Denise Van Outen, Duncan James, Toya, at the moment Amber Davis. So it's a great cast. So, and you know, I'm thrilled about. I'm 10 minutes from my house,
Oh,
so I can take Jackson to school and go to work and do all these exciting things of a night.
Yeah.
So what will your schedule be? Is it one show a day?
It's 2 shows a week for me, so it's just Thursdays and Saturdays.
Perfect.
On my doorstep, and it's such a. I mean, to be fair, I was a fan of the show before I joined it. I used to go for nights out to support Duncan. So you sit and you have your dinner, you watch the show, and it's like 3 hours the show with breaks in between.
That's very civilised, isn't it?
That's what I want. I mean, I just love eating and shows. So
It sounds like the
win,
dream.
you know.
Yeah, what's not to
And you
love?
don't have to leave your seat if you don't want. It's perfect.
I'm not sure it would suit you. Isabel told me today that she can't eat while people are watching her.
No.
People around her.
I can go out for dinner and things. It's just I'm talking about in a work environment.
Yeah.
You know,
But doesn't that sound lovely to be able to go? You know, when you watch the movies, you see the movies, and they always have in America these sort of clubs where people sing and people are having dinner around a table and everybody's dressed up in black tie and whatever it happens to be. And you think,
But you know what, Isabel? There's so many distractions in this show. No one will be watching you.
Yeah,
eat.
no, exactly.
Yeah, there's all kinds going on
about
stage. Some of it's quite risque, but it's all done tongue-in-cheek. It's not sleazy in any way. It's really good fun.
Yeah. So, Claire, where do you stand now in terms of your entertainment? You do a lot of musical theatre as well. What about acting, right? What about, are you involved in any projects? Do you have any ambitions on that front?
I love it. I mean, the last show I did before lockdown was probably one of the most challenging jobs I've ever done, and it was Shirley Valentine, which was a one-woman show on stage on my own for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Isabel, it took me 6 months to learn it. It was really hard learned, but once I'd done it, it was I remember writing to Willie Russell at the time and saying, how do people learn this? It's like, so he said, I hear it's a mountain to climb, but the views are very good when you reach the top.
Gosh.
And that is true. So that
And look who you were following in terms of the film. People, you know, will look at Pauline Collins on that. And that must be, what, 40-odd years ago?
It was, yeah, it was in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And do you know what? The story is timeless. It's not dated. It's still very funny, still poignant and appropriate. So that, for me, Eamonn, was a real box ticked in the acting category. And I thought, OK, I'll go and do a bit of singing and dancing. I'll set fire to myself and do a bit of that stuff. You know?
A bit of a left field question, but I don't know if you've seen all the news about Bruce Willis over the last 24 hours. He's found out he's got this rare brain condition and he's having to stand back from his acting career as an actor, as an actress. That's everyone's worst fear, isn't it?
The worst fear is, I've had it myself as well, being frightened of not being able to learn lines. And after lockdown, I went into 9 to 5. I had 6 days rehearsal. I'm never off stage. The cast have been doing it for over a year. And I had to come in fast, ready, know my lines. And it took me longer to learn my lines because 2 years in lockdown, the brain's a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it, you know. And to just get into the routine of learning lines again. And you need to be quick. And that must have been terrifying for him, not having the tools there.
Yeah.
And good on him. You see, you hear of a lot of people just carrying on doing it and struggling, then word gets about, and he's come out, he's gone, this is the problem, and I'm struggling.
Meaning you're saying people might say they've worked with him, he's not the same as he used to be, whatever.
Losing it, and he's owned it, and he's taken control of it, and he's in the fortunate financial position that he can stand up and say, you know.
Well, Claire, it's good to see you. It's good to see you in full flames in this show. So it's Cabaret All Stars, and where is it? Where's it all happening?
So it's in Prad Embankment. I open on Saturday, and I'm doing it for 4 months.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll have to pop along. Sounds amazing.
It's a good night. Ruth will love it. Yeah, it's really fun.
You see, Claire has this show on BBC Radio Merseyside called Claire Sweeney Meets. Can't say I've ever been on it, but have you been on it, Isabel?
I want you to come on it.
Oh, yes. It's too
I
late.
just spoke to the producer that I said, do you think if I ask him live on air, he'll come on?
I'll be on.
You have to talk about yourself for now. Will you find that hard?
Would I find that hard? Would I find that hard?
You'd love it.
Great seeing you, Claire.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Success.
Good luck with the show. Thank you.
Can't wait to see your tassels. We'll be going along for that. Thank you very much indeed.
OK, stay with us. Lots more coming up in the last half hour of the show. We're going to be speaking to the legendary singer Paul Young, as well as discussing all the big stories of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The author of a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal says childbirth is not safe for mothers in England.
Hello there, very good morning to you. 9 o'clock is the time. This is GB News Breakfast on Thursday, the 31st of March with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster. You're very welcome.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. Major changes to maternity services in England are expected in the wake of a damning report into failures at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust, which revealed catastrophic mismanagement.
Labour calls for the Prime Minister to resign over Partygate as Boris Johnson continues to insist the law wasn't broken over Downing Street parties. That's despite 20 police fixed penalty notices.
The Foreign Secretary Liz Truss will head to India today to urge the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Now, this comes as President Zelensky is given a standing ovation by members of the Australian Parliament as he says Ukrainian forces are preparing for a new Russian offensive in the east.
And get in touch on email. We always want to hear your views and thoughts throughout the programme. That's gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can use Twitter @GBNews.
Top story. Our top story today is the author of a report into Britain's worst maternity scandal has warned childbirth is still not safe until the recommendations of her report are adopted.
Failings over 20 years at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust led to the deaths of 201 children and left others severely brain damaged. The report also found that the trust was not held to account by external bodies.
Healthcare expert Donna Ockenden, who authored the report, said it was astounding that systemic failings had continued for so long.
Well, in the House of Commons yesterday, the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, apologised to all the families affected.
To all the families that have suffered so greatly, I am sorry. The report clearly shows that you were failed by a service that was there to help you and your loved ones to bring life into this world. We will make the changes that the report says are needed at both a local and national level.
Well, the Trust itself has also apologised, adding that it has already made changes and will make more in future. Well, earlier on this morning, we spoke to Julie Rowlings, who lost her baby daughter, Olivia, 20 years ago.
We were being told one thing and then they were doing another. They put in my notes that they'd given me Syntocin. There was never another bag put up. The only bag it was up was because I'd had the epidurals.
To relax, is it?
Just a lot of different things that day weren't sitting right with us. But we didn't. We just went with what they said. We thought that was how it was done, and it wasn't till after that we realised. No.
Yeah. It's so awful, as Isabel said, you know, for you to have to recount all of this again. With the publishing of the report yesterday, is there any satisfaction at all that you get, or is it all just continually too painful for you?
It's a mixture, a roller coaster of emotions to do with the report, because it's bittersweet. The outcome of the report is incredible. It's incredible for a lot of families, like us as well. But we, unfortunately, to get to where we are, families like ourselves have had to relive this pain. And I feel that until we're provided evidence that the changes are being implemented on a regular basis, the changes stipulated within the Ockenden report, we can see that they've been taken on board and being actioned with immediate effect. This can't wait. This has to be implemented. Until then, I don't know how we move forward.
That was the tragic story there of Julie Rowlings. Well, to the other big story of the day, and Boris Johnson faced a grilling yesterday at Prime Minister's questions and in front of a liaison committee after the Metropolitan Police issued 20 fixed penalty notices for parties during lockdown in Downing Street. The Labour leader, Keir Starmer, has called on the Prime Minister to resign and asked at the dispatch box, why is he still here? So what does the future hold for Boris Johnson? Well, joining us now is the journalist and author Ross Clark. Good morning. Very warm welcome to the programme. I'm interested to see that a second Cabinet Minister this morning has acknowledged that the law was broken. Yesterday it was Dominic Raab, today Anne-Marie Trevelyan, and yet Downing Street officially and the Prime Minister denying that the law was broken. It's a parallel universe, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the fact that the police have issued these fines suggests that the law has been broken, but if I were Boris Johnson, I would be feeling reasonably confident this morning of surviving this crisis. The police have issued 20 fines. Downing Street have said on a number of occasions that if the Prime Minister receives a fine, they will divulge that information. They haven't said he's received a fine. So, the logic of that is that he is not one of those people who've received one of those 20 fines. At the same time, politics is very, very different from it was in January and early February with the Ukrainian war. It's reminded us that there are far more important things going on in the world, and this looks like a sort of frivolous indulgence. At the same time, the Prime Minister's most obvious rival, Rishi Sunak, his stock has fallen as a result of the sort of cost of living crisis and what many see as a bungled spring statement. So I think the sting has gone out of this crisis. It'll rumble on, of course. Labour will try and make capital out of it at every opportunity. But my reading of it now is that the Prime Minister will survive this.
So, I mean, that might be the mood in Westminster. Do you think that's the mood of the public, people who lost loved ones? I mean, you say the sting has gone out of it, but at the end of the day, does it matter? Do you think it is a frivolous distraction if the Prime Minister has misled Parliament, has lied?
I think people are rightfully angry, obviously, when, they had to, people sort of had to have family funerals they couldn't attend and so on. They're going to be extremely angry when there's anything or even remotely resembling a party going on in Downing Street. But, at the same time, they can see what's going on in Ukraine. The biggest obsession of people at the moment is can they pay their heating bills and can they, afford to run their car and fill their fridge? And, there are far more important issues at the moment facing people. If there's a danger to the government, it's from the cost of living crisis. I don't think from Partygate. And the issue of whether the Prime Minister misled Parliament, I think it's going to be a very grey area because he always couched it in the terms is I am assured that no rules were broken. I am assured. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to prove that he wasn't assured that no rules were broken. And I think the rules themselves were obviously very complex and very confusing for a great number of people. But I think the Prime Minister's biggest error in all this was not having a socially distanced drink in the Downing Street garden. I mean, these were people who've been working indoors all day together anyway, just went out in the garden for a drink. I mean, there was absolutely no extra risk involved. I think his big error was coming up with these very highly prescriptive rules backed up with stiff criminal fines in the first place. And if he'd left it much more to our own judgment for people to use their own sense of responsibility in the first place, then he wouldn't be in the position he is now.
OK, Ross Clark, yes or no, just a final word from you. If he gets fined, do you think he'll resign? Yes or no? Just a one-word answer, sorry. We're short on time.
I think if we wouldn't ask a PM to resign because he had a speeding fine.
That's a no. OK, Ross Clark, all the best. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ross. Were you rushing him because we have
got a long list of very important people to talk to? Yeah.
And here next, he is responsible for so many anthems, including Wherever I Lay My Hat. That's my home, and his home is in our GB News studio today. We welcome the legend that is Paul Young back on tour, my friend. Very good seeing you.
Nice to see you.
Very good seeing you. Do you know, Isabel, let me tell you this. When I was a young presenter at Ulster Television, this man came to the studios in Belfast, and every female in the building...
Just like today?
Just probably like today. I mean, heady times, and that song in particular, I think, whether it was every time you go away or Wherever I Lay My Hat, I mean, that's just so the 80s, so many fond memories for so many people. Does nostalgia sell? Because what I'm really saying to you is, do you want to push new stuff and people want the classics, or do you mind?
Well, I'll always push new stuff, and they will always want the classics. But so yes is the answer to all three, and I don't mind.
Yeah, you don't mind. Yeah.
Yes, because I'd kind of expect that. If I was going to go and see someone, yeah, I'll listen to something that they've done new. But then the minute you hear those opening chords of a song that you just get that rush of excitement.
Yeah.
So they've got to be there, really.
Yeah, and it excites the fans. Does it still excite you after all this time?
It does. There's certain songs that I do, and I just know they're going to get the reaction because I think intros to songs are really important. And if you can come across a good one, like every time you go away and it goes da 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 da, and the minute they hear that,
they know what's coming.
You just get that instant thrill.
Yeah, it's so good to get fans back in front of you when you're performing for that instant reaction, because obviously we've all had this period when no one's been doing any sort of performance.
Terrible time, yeah. And what's happening now is there's like a car crash of all the all the stuff that was postponed is coming back in, plus it was new stuff as well. So that's why I've ended up with the tour in the spring and a tour in the autumn.
Okay, the tour in the spring, first of all, is one you've tried before, you've done before in Australia with Go West.
Yeah.
Go West as in We Close Our Eyes, Call Me, and the King of Wishful Thinking.
Yeah, so that was supposed to happen just before lockdown. And that's been moved 2 or 3 times. And but the one that we're doing at the end of the year was something we were planning anyway, and that's with Carol Decker and Hue and Cry. So there might be a bit of a set change by then, because I've also got an album that's coming out in the summer.
Yeah.
So I could probably put a couple of those in for the autumn tour, you know. I won't do the whole album though. I know what they feel like about that.
But it's good to see that there is new stuff there, that you are still excited by that the material is there, and you have this urge to compose and record.
Yeah, I do enjoy it, and I'm sure you know, but even my hobby is another band, Los Pecaminos, and they're 30 years old this year, so now I'm working on that album.
Yeah, no shortage
It's
of
got to come
things
out
to
by
do.
the end.
Yeah, and what do you say the difference in style that people would expect from you with Los Pecaminos? What is there that is different? What are you playing at? And is it play? Is it real?
It is. It's as much play as it is work. Yeah, it's Tex-Mex music, or it started that way. It's now a little bit more.
Tex-Mex. I'm already feeling the party mood.
Yeah. So there's cowboy hats, pedal steel guitars, accordions. We sing stuff in Mexican. But we do write our own material, and I'm one of 3 singers, so you get a lot of different stuff going on stage, and we're also very politically incorrect. And, that's
Perfect.
we never know what we're going to say in between the songs. Never.
So lockdown, obviously we talked about the impact it had on touring, but in terms of being creative, was that actually a bit of a godsend for you? Because you sound like you're one of those people that likes to be busy, you're always on the go. Was this a chance to sort of force you to stay at home and create and reflect and come up with new stuff?
Yeah, first of all, I like the staying at home. On that first part of lockdown, when it was spring and they said you're allowed out, it was lovely. You know, nothing in the diary, great. But then that wore thin after a while.
Yeah.
And so everything started to come back in. Now it's such a relief to get out there. And yeah, I chose that moment as a reflection on a lot of material I'd started, not finished, for different reasons, really. There's only 2 covers on the album, and both of them have been attempted by other people, not as singles, but I thought, oh, damn, and so I put them on a back burner, and then I went back and listened to them and thought, they sound great, but they haven't aged.
You surprise yourself, do you?
I do sometimes, yes. I think I'm a big critic of myself, you know, so I tend to put stuff by.
But as you say, it's nice to revisit that, listen to it and think, hey, this ain't bad.
Yeah. I was surprised, you know. You're
still
so
got
in
it,
the
Paul.
moment. Well, I hope so.
Still got it. Paul will be touring with Go West in May throughout the country. The Essential 80s tour in September with Tapao and who else did you say was on that one?
Hue and Cry.
Hue and Cry there as well. So look, great talking to you, great
enjoy.
going. If there was one song, right? If there was one song that you know they want to hear, what's it going to be?
Well, in the UK, it's Wherever I Lay My Hat, but most of the world, it would be Every Time You Go Away.
Interesting. Paul Young, appreciate it. Lovely talking to you. Thank you very much today.
Can I just say well done?
Yes.
Well done to you.
What?
You got through that whole interview
without
singing the lyrics or the titles.
What was I doing in my head? I was doing it in my head. I didn't want...
Every time we talk about music
Every time
there
we
you
go
go. I was waiting
away.
for it.
I take a piece of me with you. Do you ever think of duetting?
With you, Eamonn.
He's got good pipes.
If we both wore blue suits, I think it would work.
And the waistcoat. Listen, do you know, I was also thinking, you know, as a performing artist, and there's a big story in the papers today about Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And, you know, he may be having the signs of dementia. I don't know, it could have been caused by a lot of things. But, I mean, you know, you've had in the family with Stacey or, you know, just yourself, we've all had, you know, health brushes and whatever. Big thing for a performing artist to walk away from his job, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a tough thing, you know. It's happened with Michael J. Fox. And it's incredible the way he managed to power through Parkinson's, you know, and still worked. But I guess sometimes there does come a point where you think, I can't do this anymore, you know. Because dementia would really work against the kind of career that he's got.
And quit being the actor, the performer that people remember.
Yeah, but then again, he's got a great body of work that he should be proud of.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Quite at the top. Paul, appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Good on you. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, stay with us. We're going to have a bit more sparkle from the showbiz world after the break. See you in a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The Health Secretary has apologised to families who suffered unimaginable trauma due to maternity care failings at Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital NHS Trust over 2 decades. West Mercia Police say its own investigation is ongoing. Detectives are looking into approximately 600 cases.
The Ukrainian president's been given a standing ovation as he addressed the Australian Federal Parliament this morning. President Zelensky says Ukrainian forces are preparing for new Russian attacks in the east as Moscow suffers setbacks near Kyiv. So I promised you some more showbiz before the break, and we are going to be talking about all the showbiz news and gossip with our lovely Stephanie Tetchy. Welcome.
Good morning, Isabel and Eamonn.
There's lots to talk about this morning.
There is. The past week has been quite eventful for showbiz, but the last 24 hours, I was just glued. It was like breaking news story after breaking news story, and obviously the big one for me personally is Tom Parker and his passing. Even though people knew that his brain tumour was incurable, he gave us hope that he was actually battling through it. You know,
too young, too
young,
good-looking,
33 years old.
father, campaigner, just 33 years of age.
It's no age to go.
No.
And one thing about him, he was fighting right till the end. It was only 2 weeks ago we saw him in stage in Liverpool with the band. So you think 2 weeks later you wouldn't be expecting him to be passing away. Last Tuesday, he came out and said that he was writing a memoir called Hope, and still having a positive spin. He said it's not going to be about dying, but it's about making the best of any situation you find yourself in.
And as Eamonn was saying, he leaves behind a lovely wife, only of 3 years, and 2 gorgeous little babies. And her tributes yesterday brought a tear to my eye. It was so sweet about how he lit up every room, and she wants that light to continue for her children. So sad.
You can tell he had a zest for life, and even though he had a short life, I can say he really did achieve a lot, and his legacy will go through the kids and his wife.
Yeah, really sad.
And then another health story we tie into, which is the Bruce Willis situation. We're just talking to Paul Young about there.
Yeah, again, that was a bit of a shocker, but it seems like it's been an open secret in Hollywood, actually. Obviously, it's his health condition to talk about. But over the past 2 years, Bruce Willis has done about 8 films back to back. They haven't gone to cinema, they've gone straight to home releases. But insiders say he's been using ear prompters to help him deliver his lines. He's had to get body doubles in. So it shows how much he's been passionate about continuing to do acting, and that's why he's done so much. People were criticising him, like, why is he doing all these bad movies back to back? But obviously he knows that his craft was coming to an end.
Well, maybe he didn't. You know, maybe there's a private battle behind the scenes. I mean, you do see that, don't you, when people have these kinds of cognitive degeneration, that it's often, you know, very difficult for people to accept, especially when you're a superstar.
Definitely. He's had a career over 4 decades. He starred in all of the big films that we all know and love.
The Die Hards.
To give that up, I can imagine it must be hard for him to walk away from that. But as his family said, he's all about living it up. So they still have this optimistic view about it. But I think it was time for them to be honest with the public, to say what's been going on. And it's been amazing to see his relationship between Demi Moore, his ex-wife, and his new wife, Emma. And it seems like they're just together as a tag team to provide that support for him.
And his daughters as well. You want to talk to us about the Beckhams? Because there's news in the papers this morning of a break-in at their house. I know you brought the doom and gloom today.
I know I'm supposed to bring sparkle, but today's no sparkle affair. I'm afraid the Beckhams are on the front page of The Sun because it's reported that their house in London got broken into, and it was discovered by their son, Cruz. He had come out from a night out, and he realised that one of the spare rooms had been ransacked, and actually the burglar was still in the house, and Harper and Victoria was upstairs, and David Beckham had to call the police. The robber got away, but he took away thousands of designer wear and goods. But the main thing is they're safe. It's always in this situation, you want to make sure that people are safe.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit earlier in the programme, because, of course, they had that whole history, didn't they, of people trying to abduct their kids. Was it Harper, particularly? And David Wooding, the editor of The Sun on Sunday, saying that actually a lot of it we couldn't report at the time. It's really nasty stuff. So for them, actually, this is going to be quite triggering, because, you know, it's frightening to have your house invaded.
Just when you think you're safe, and, you know, the Beckhams are well loved by the public, you wouldn't think that they would have enemies or be targeted, but there's, in any case, they're always being watched, and they're quite a highly public couple, so fortunate that this has happened to them.
Do you know what, Stephanie, though? Everybody knows where they live.
I know.
It's almost like on a sightseeing tour. You come to London. It's what people just know where it is, and people have these games where they walk up and down that street trying to guess which is their house.
But it's like that with most celebrities. Like, obviously I work for the papers and stuff, and we have strict rules where we can't name where someone lives. But, you know, you Google it, you can put 2 and 2 together with the area. Sometimes in interviews they might slip up.
Don't be giving tips.
Oh, oops.
On how you do it. No, I mean, it is a security concern. I guess that comes as part of the price of being in the public eye.
And I'm sure they're going to have to ramp up their security after this, or they probably already have.
So, there's some good news, though, for the Baldwins, Alec Baldwin and his wife.
Yep, so she's announced they're having lucky baby number 7. I'm like...
You see, I'm not sure if that is good news. Personally, I'm thinking...
Are these children all theirs as a couple?
All there. She's the one that pushed all of them out.
Oh, I thought there was a surrogate involved in one of them. Oh, right.
I don't think so.
No,
Have they found out what's causing it?
A high sex life, maybe. But she's 38, and so she announced it. But obviously we know that with Alec Baldwin, he's had a rough time since last October, since the accidental shooting of Helena Hutchins on the set for Rust. So she said this has actually brought us some joy into our lives. And while it's to be celebrated, you can imagine all the trolls on social media, like, well, while you're celebrating, we have a family out there who's lost their mother and their child. And I think, you know, over the past few months, the Baldwins have been trying to push forward from this affair and try to get back to normal, but I think it's something that's always going to live with them and stigmatise Alec
I just think they should have allowed a longer period before celebrating certain things on social media. I think she in particular is very good at talking in social media, and you just think, just radio silence for a year or
it's
so.
Just being sensitive, and I think she's been so eager to push forward and try to create this united front for the family, but as you say, you still have to pay respect to what's happened, and there is still a family that's mourning.
Well, is there still a case going on?
Yeah, there is. And he's been, we know Alec Baldwin's quite a character, but he's been quite cocky still through it. He was like, you know, if I knew that the gun was loaded, I would have shot myself instead. And yeah.
Well, look, we've got to say goodbye to you, Stephanie. I know the hunt is at 11 o'clock or so, isn't it?
Where's my whip?
Yes. Where's your horse? That's the thing. Get off your horse and drink your milk. That's it. We'll see you next week from Manchester. It's Stephen and Anne, I think, tomorrow.
Anne's back.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. It might be the first day of April tomorrow, but today starts off freezing cold with a mixture of frost, ice, and in some places lying snow. Cold winds have arrived all the way from the Arctic, and they'll continue to blow through the rest of the day. Now, those cold winds have brought snow to places. Watch out for some icy patches first thing. And there'll be further wintry showers during the rest of the day, especially in the east and the north, so a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow. Away from the showers, however, there will be some sunny spells. It's a bright enough day, but it's going to feel much colder than it has felt for some time, with a biting northeasterly wind, particularly around the southeast coast, and temperatures struggling to get to 5, 6, 7 Celsius in the east, 8 or 9 in the west. Knock a few degrees off for the wind chill, of course, and through the evening, clearing skies will lead to, once again, plummeting temperatures. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in the north, there's a good chance of seeing the aurora this evening, so look out for that. But away from the clear skies in the north, there'll be further showers coming into the east at times. Again, a mixture of rain, sleet, hail and snow, so some ice perhaps in places, and a widespread frost to start off tomorrow morning. Plenty of sunshine, mind you, as we start off the day. And despite the cold start, it's going to be, for many, less windy. It's also going to be bright and dry for many. There'll be a few more showers coming into central and eastern parts of the country. Mixture of rain and sleet, I think, and some rain or sleet showers into the west of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But away from these areas, for many, it's a dry and bright day. Temperatures reaching 7 to 9 Celsius, so recovering very slightly compared to today. And that very slow recovery in temperatures continues through the weekend. Showers for many on Saturday, dry for many away from the far north on Sunday, highs of 10 degrees.
Tonight on GB News, at 6 it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.